Help, are you okay?
Should have been a waitress.
This is the approved budget, so it still is here.
Okay, for 40?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we can go ahead and,
Where is it? Feasibility
Okay.
studies.
And that happened on Saturday, I guess.
Oh.
And I've been to the.
I'm pretty sure.
Here we are.
Oh,
This gives us straight
or,
edge.
Johnny Simon.
Yeah, that's right.
And
There.
okay, so we can go ahead and do it
both
now
places
for
were
40,000.
showing the
Okay.
hall. And then
Looks like lovely. And then the idea that we take it out of the other fund or whatever. I think like there's Zanita.
Good sentence.
Okay.
Happy to do something for her.
Yeah, I did.
I would think
He just said, I'll just see you just some goodies, so.
I mean, it's just been normal. It's good for nice stuff to do for her. And John goes, just letting them do it. But
Yeah, so it's in the budget. Yeah. So we can go
Come back and see the whole job.
It's on the timer page.
Yeah.
We've already written our
Sometimes. Here we
That's
go.
inhaling.
Yeah.
It's random.
Right, yes.
So hey, there's Sage.
Thank you. Well, and I've even chosen to send a letter to the minister as well, which I thought was welcome. Like everyone has a lot, you know, in, like it's a house crisis.
But at least it's like.
You remember seeing yeah, this is the very first time when we were both there. Now we're seeing it. Oh, right. And how part of the
Well, nobody's I felt very strange. In fact, you were complimenting your public works.
Oh,
I had someone tell me that your wife dropped it off and they said, that's funny, why would she do that? I said, because it saves on the cost and Steve was chair of that committee and they want to make sure everybody knows about it in our neighborhood.
Bonnie says yes, but I don't know. Can we do a quick photograph if you're willing? Sherry? Sherry?
What's the birthday party?
Yeah, for sure. Can you do a quick photo if you'd like to? Hello. If you want to be a part of a picture, can you do that? Yeah. Oh, cut it, great.
Is my hair in place?
Well, here, Steve.
I have to get my
I'll get it.
No, I just, you know they're You're looking frozen. Okay, that's it.
Come on now.
Thank you, everybody. First off, I just want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, including our near neighbors, the Sook region and the Shiado First Nation. Anyway, so welcome to the meeting. This is the meeting of June 19th. With the agenda, I have a few additions. We've got some pinks here. So with that, the chosen school washrooms add to 13A, the fire chief's memo to 7D, correspondence from Ms. Whitehouse and Ms. Anstey of 11D. The fire chief would like to give a brief update. She was on this and then I pulled her when she was deployed and now she's back, to 2B. And an update on Fords and Friends, the event that's happening here from our interim CAO as 13C. So with those 5 items. With that, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you. We've got a presentation. We have Honorable Mitzi Dean here to present. Please come to the mic. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the traditional territory recognition as well. It's really important to recognise that we're on the shared traditional territory of local nations, and for me it's really important because I represent Chianu and Esquimalt and Songhees nations provincially as well. I use she/her pronouns, and I just want to say thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak with you all. Municipalities are absolute key partners. Our government is absolutely committed to working with all levels of government. We, through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, we have many ways and opportunities of working with municipalities, but we really recognise all the work that you do, and there are lots of different ways that our work intersects and that we need to work collaboratively together in order to best serve our residents and citizens. People who have known me and worked with me in the past know that I passionately believe in collaboration because I know that it leads to the best outcomes for those who we serve. I know that Metchosin is a very active community, very active municipality. I live just down the road here, and I'm very happy and proud to be a resident of Metchosin. I really appreciate all of the leadership here around the table, and the support for the community from Mayor and Council. I know you all love our community and you're doing your best, and we appreciate your service. I know there are also challenges as well, especially for us where we live in a region that's very, very fast growing. Our neighbours are very fast growing, but we also have the issue of global inflation as well, and the cost of living increasing, and basics, groceries, gas, and of course the cost of housing all going up as well. We know that there's a housing crisis here in Capital Regional District. I want to thank you so much for copying me in on the letter that you sent to Minister Kalon. I really appreciated that. I think it's really good to see Metchosin engaging in its own unique way, recognising there's a housing crisis and thinking about what Metchosin's position and situation is in that. And as a local resident, I'm also really happy to see that Metchosin is working on a climate action plan as well. As you know, the provincial government is very committed to working in partnership. We created the Growing Communities Fund, which was $1 billion that was granted to municipalities, reflecting growth in municipalities, and also recognising that some municipalities have very old infrastructure, some municipalities are growing very fast and need to be building new infrastructure as well. So I'm really looking forward to see what Metchosin is going to do with the $2.5 million that was provided by the provincial government. And as an MLA, it's my honour to bring the perspective of Metchosin, people who live here, our community, to the legislature, and to make sure that our residents are connected to provincial government services as well. So one of the things I've been doing recently is going out and doing some door knocking and also hosting coffee shop meet and greets as well. And just wanting to make sure that people know how they can reach my office, that I have a constituency office that's in View Royal, and the services that can be delivered by my constituency assistants as well. And the one that I'm doing in Minchosen is towards the end of August at the Broken Paddle. So that will be on my social media. I really like, if I can, to come to municipalities at least once a year, especially around budget time, to be able to provide an update on the budget. So obviously next year, budget 2024 will be presented to the legislature in February, and then my office will probably reach out and see if I can come back in April or something like that. So I raise my hands to you all. Thank you so much for your service for our community, and I'm really happy to take any comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. So comments from council. Anybody have any specific questions or comments? I would like to thank you for coming. I know that you're very busy, and to make time for us, this is really great. Anybody else have any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Shukin.
Through you, Mayor Little. Minister Dean, thanks very much. And I do, your offer to connect with staff is a sincere one. And before I was in this position, I met with you and your staff a number of times on certain issues, so that was really good to do. Any insights you might be able to bring us into the big question of housing? You mentioned the letter that Mayor Little sent to Minister Cowan. It was interesting for a lot of us who are speculating on how it might roll out to see the first 10 or so communities identified, and then of course there's a so-called naughty list. But any sort of further hints of what may be coming in the future for this subject?
Sure. Yeah. So it isn't a naughty list.
Okay.
It's a list of municipalities where the speculation vacancy tax applies. So, provincial government has already recognised there's a pressure in these communities. So it saved the provincial government from lots and lots of regulation to be able to just do a larger group. The first 10 for the first phase were selected on the basis of data and analysis of the data, really wanting to target areas where there's the greatest need, and also where there hasn't been growth that has matched the need as well. And so that's how the first 10 communities were chosen. The next phase of communities, probably about another 10, will be chosen again using data and using that analysis. The data will be updated. So, if I think about View Royal, for example, they've got a lot of builds that are actually coming online and are going to be housing people. So by the time the data are updated by the end of this year, then the analysis for that municipality, which happens to be one of mine, will look different. As we know, Minchosen actually grew between the two censuses. So in a sense, that makes it more of a need in our community. But I think the fact that you're actually already having a look at what's going to be the response from Minchosen will be very helpful, because if the province keeps updated, if you keep the province updated on what you're doing, and they see that you're making progress, they see that you're looking at what is it that can happen here in this community, then that's something I can facilitate, and that's something that would be just really helpful for the province, I think. So the data will be updated, there'll be more analysis done, and then the next phase will be announced at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. And I think the ministry is looking at doing around about 10 or 12, either once or twice a year over the next 3-year plan. And targets will be set, so the province will work with those municipalities. They'll work together to set targets about the type of housing, the location of housing, the targets of number of homes that will be built, and they'll be work together to support the municipality unity. We want success, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to work in partnership with municipalities to create that success.
Okay.
Very little, just one follow-up question. Thank you very much, Minister Dean. And again, it's interesting for us to you identify the municipalities based on data, and that's great. And there must be an understanding that actual outcomes of new homes developed, that possibly takes years and years to do, siting and zoning, and then the building itself. And I'm always fascinated by the interaction of the private landowner, the private developer versus the province or a publicly owned, like a public agency building affordable homes. So there's a whole bunch of dynamics at play.
Yeah, so the province wants to support all of those aspects of house building. So working with UBCM and with municipalities to look at, how can the province help municipalities rezone faster, get through those approval processes faster, and there are different ways. And that would support private development, for example, as well as provincial development. But we have, for example, the Housing Hub, which is $2 billion worth of funding that developers can apply for, and they get it at a good interest rate to be able to do mixed-use developments as well, so that we end up with a good range of housing. So the province is supporting those types of developments, and at the same time BC Housing is doing its building as well. So there are different ways and different levers, different tools that we're trying to exercise in order to support municipalities in making sure that all those types of housing can be built.
Great.
I mean, I think if you think looking forward, like Chosen is a very small community, and we want to build a lot of housing. So we're going to be working with municipalities where there are larger populations.
Okay. Councillor Ebb.
Yeah, you mentioned that through the years it'd be important for the province to be apprised of Machosen's progress in this way. I just wondered, how you might define, in terms of Machosen, how you might define progress.
Well, my understanding is that as Mayor and Council, you actually want to have a look at writing whatever Machosen's approach to your role in the housing crisis, right? So I would be very interested in seeing how you define for yourselves what Machosen's role is.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions at this? Did you have any more? No. No. Any questions at this end of the table? No. Okay.
Thanks for attending, Ms. Dean. It's very nice of you to be here, and I appreciate that you'll come back. That'd be great. I'm just struck by, we're very excited about the plan that the province has got going forward to build more housing in the province. My own situation, speaking personally, is that I ran on a platform of not developing Machosen, keeping it green. And part of the reason for that was in relation to the climate, but also the notion of understanding that while we densify, we'd be densifying in urban centres close to transit, as Minister Callan has expressed in his notes. But then we find Machosen listed as one of the communities that needs, is included in this drive for increasing density. So I guess what I'm wondering about is we have an urban containment boundary, a regional growth strategy that the province has been involved in for the longest time with the CRD and ourselves, and we've, on that basis, we've developed a strategic plan for Machosen, which lays out staying pretty much where we are, but building out to the zoning that already exists, which I'll just say isn't much. And now we've just received, I guess at our last meeting, we received a letter from UBCM asking us to put forward any piece of property owned by the district that we'd like to see developed into housing. Voluntary sort of jumping in like that. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, are you thinking, or is the province thinking, that we should move away from the idea of keeping Machosen as green space next to the developed city, so that the CRD, people living in the CRD, can come out here and enjoy it? Mm-hmm. My drive would be in the next little while, so I'll just make the suggestion, between now and December, we can make quite a few moves in terms of preserving land, protecting further land. We can, in fact, when we talk about things like trails, we can say, hey, we need to have parking by that trail so people can come and use it. We can harden some of our parks in terms of, to take heavier use. We could, for example, as I was talking the other day with the Growing Communities Fund, put in a bike trail from Colwood to Woods Beach. Mm-hmm. That's something that would support densification where it ought to be, in my view, and then preserve this land specially for the people here. So we have, I get your point about prepare our role in the housing crisis, but I would say it's to support density elsewhere at the moment. So that would be one. And then not to use the Growing Communities Fund for our own purposes, for our own population, but to think about how we can support that densification, which you desperately need to get in place at the provincial level. And so should we choose projects that are supporting densification, away, so people can come and use the land here? I'm just wondering what you think about the things that I've offered.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I think, Metchosin is unique. It's very rural. It's able to offer those amenities, the green space, and supporting densification in the fast-growing communities around us, and finding ways. What can Metchosin do? What's Metchosin's role there? Like you say, we've got to make sure that there are car parks, because our parks in Metchosin are supporting people from around the region. So, I think those are some really good ideas. I know Marie-Therese and I, when we were down at Esquimalt Lagoon, were thinking, how can we get that trail to just, keep coming west? I absolutely agree. I think, Metchosin is unique and has stayed rural. And for you to have that conversation about, what role can Metchosin play in regionally how we densify and respond to the housing crisis. So those kind of ideas, I think, are really valuable.
So maybe through the chair then, would we also have the Shannon Nation, which we talked about just at the beginning there, who are, I'm aware of housing problems. Should we be looking to support them in those sorts of things, or is that really not how the funds work, the growing community funds? We also have, I think, social housing being built in Langford that we could, perhaps put shoulder to wheel on as well in terms of some of our funds. Is that the kind of way the money can be used?
Well, the money is for the municipality to spend on infrastructure that you need. So, and you know this probably better than I do. So what are the pressures on your infrastructure as a result of the densification around you would be something to think about as well. So like you say, improving trails, improving parking, because I've definitely seen it since I moved here in 2016, the significant increase in people coming to parks in Metchosin, and they're provincial CRD and Metchosin parks, but they're getting so much more use because of all of the building that's going on around us, and because they're so beautiful, and coming out here is so beautiful. That supporting that kind of infrastructure with your growing community funding would actually contribute to the housing crisis in a meaningful way, so that you're actually thinking, collaboratively thinking about what's happening around with your neighbouring municipalities as well. And the nations are also receiving provincial funding for infrastructure. So there's the Growing Communities Fund, and nations are also getting funding from the province.
Thank you very much. And thanks for your support.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, thank you very much. That gives us a lot more information, and I think there are some things that we can do within our existing bylaws, within our framework here, that we can help with the housing crisis as well, and within our OCP. And so what I'm hearing from you is we need to come up with a plan. We need to have discussions regarding what role Metchosin can play towards the housing crisis, and thinking about using the region, and thinking what can we do to help. Yeah.
And the only reason Metchosin is on the list is because we're in CRD.
Yeah, and it does say may in there. It identifies and that municipalities may be asked, so maybe on the next list. So
yeah, I think there are other municipalities that can make a bigger contribution to the overall housing crisis that would probably rise up above the radar than Metchosin. But I really appreciate that you're already thinking about what can you do with your bylaws, what can you do with your infrastructure, and really thinking about how do you want to plan moving forward to recognise that you can make a contribution to the housing crisis as well.
Okay, we'll keep you informed, and certainly Minister Kellan as well. Thank you.
Yeah, please copy my office in, and just reach out if you think that I can help.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Council. Okay, public participation. So we have some time, up to 45 minutes total, 4 minutes per person. If anybody should wish to ask questions, comments, if you come to the microphone and identify yourself. Thanks, Minister Dean.
Sarah Anthony, Machosen Road. Sort of in light of that, well, we'd actually talked about this before. So we have sort of a little ad hoc housing group here in Machosen. Surprise. A few people were just really interested in what we could do, as, from things I've said, I don't want to see a whole bunch of fourplexes or anything like that in Machosen and big condo developments or anything, but I do think there are things that we could do in Machosen that would be small scale, that would help with the housing crisis. And I would like to ask if you would allow our group at some point in the near future, maybe even as far as September, to do a presentation of the things that we've kind of come up with that we think might fit the rural nature of Machosen. So
You're most welcome to.
thank you.
I'm Siggy, Kangaroo Road, for you all tonight. Just wanted to read out correspondence that I had submitted earlier today, but it obviously missed the timing for the meeting. And I want to preface it by saying that I am neither for or against the Beckingham Road development, but just wanted to speak to a couple of the points again. I'd like to take one more opportunity before community input is closed to provide feedback regarding the Beckingham Road development application. The most important and pressing issue is water. All indicators point to vastly declining precipitation levels and therefore declining water availability from our aquifers. It is no longer sustainable to add more demands to the already overstretched aquifers. The only feasible option is to require all further development in Machosen to provide piped water, even if this means opening up and revising the OCP. So this would be not just Beckingham Road, but I feel that this is something that should be considered for all developments. By making this change, no concessions need to be negotiated with the developer. Lot sizes and guidelines should stay the same, only adding the requirement of piped water. When applying this to Beckingham development, it would translate to a requirement for piped water without reducing lot sizes and increasing density, which would be upholding the original values and intent of the OCP. It should not be the responsibility or concern of council to ensure that the developer can afford the amenities, but rather to protect the community and citizens of Machosen, as well as our precious resources, both for now and for future generations. So I ask the council to continue to show the leadership and forward thinking that Machosen is known for, and take the appropriate steps in regards to this development to protect our aquifer, both from overuse and from contamination. Once we lose it, we can never get it back. I think it's also timely considering the talk about the housing crisis and that there may be even a little bit more development in Machosen. On a side note, I'd also like to add my voice to ask you to continue to consider the wise words of the Working Dog Group and their input. It's really important to listen to our experts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Beth Bacon, the chosen resident, and I like what Lisa has to say, except I think we should accept the 40 acres and let them have 2-acre lots, because that's the environmentally correct thing to do. That's the climate correct thing to do. But no increase in density. Piped water.
Bev, can you say that again, what you were in favor of? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Accepting the 40 acres of natural space that they're going to give us, but don't give them any increased density. Lisa says, let's keep with the 5-acre lots. I say let them have the 2-acre lots, because we need the large space for environment, for climate, for biodiversity, for our large mammals. That's very important ecologically. And a 2-acre lot is still a good fit for Mechosen. But there's no reason to give them extra.
Thank you.
Mary Lou, one brief comment if I could. Just in terms of public input, so if council decided to go ahead with the amenities zoning request, that is effectively a rezoning, and so there is further opportunity for public input in that. So it's not closing down, and so far to date, I think we've had actually pretty good opportunities for public input, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. So thank you.
Okay, anybody else for public participation?
Hi there, good evening. Jane Hammond, 5447 Rocky Point Road. First of all, I would like to reiterate that there are two voices, at least in Mechosen, concerning the housing issue. I don't like it when somebody just says this is what our community is about, when we really haven't canvassed a lot of individuals in the community, the ones that turn up and have opinions. Of course, you know their opinions. I go back to the housing needs assessment that was produced in offered to council in 2021. The data was out of date on that. I think the recommendations pointed out that there was some areas of housing that needed to be addressed. So I encourage you to keep an open mind, even though you may have run on some campaign promise. Just please engage the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Smurfett, 3950 Gilbert Drive. Wanting to speak a little bit about Mechosen and our housing crisis that we hear about. And how are we addressing it? Well, in 2022, an employee of the district advised me that there were over 500 dwellings units in our community that don't comply with our zoning bylaw. Well, that's 500 units that haven't been inspected for safety, that probably don't have the sewage capacity on the property, that aren't paying municipal taxes, school taxes, or the other taxes associated with it. Since that statement made by an employee to me, there's been many more of these things showing up. I've seen them, I see them every day, I drive by them. RVs parked on property, 3 and 4 of them. Suites being converted. On my street, there's an ad put up by a realtor for a single bedroom house, a single family house that's been there. And in the ad, which is on a 1-acre lot, it states that you could put a suite in the basement. And by the way, there's a building in the back that you could put a suite up top and one also in the back basement. I mean, we may have a housing crisis. It may be related to the fact that we're not enforcing our bylaws and need to look at putting in bylaws that are enforceable, providing housing in a form that's affordable, such as duplexes and fourplexes, things like that in areas that we've never considered before. But darn it all, if we turn our backs always on these sorts of things, infill housing that's all illegal and not paying taxes, we're just going backwards. We're going to be, a dog patch if we're not there already. And it's not nice and it's not safe for anybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Eric White, 4290 Chosen Road. Last time I gave you a list of consequences for not participating in the housing crisis. I'm glad to hear that we have some ideas on hand and we're moving forward. That's something, ideas are where we start. I just thought I'd throw out what possibly is maybe the largest consequence, and that is basically leaving the young people hanging out to dry. Young people and other people who are disadvantaged, are most at risk of housing issues. And in today's day and age, many young people, we can say like, oh, get a better job. Well, these young people can't get a better job. And sometimes they're spending their 2-week paycheck on their rent. And I don't know how many people know what that's like to work for 2 weeks and then have to spend it to keep a roof over your head. And then the next 2 weeks is to keep your car and put food on your table. And what are you left with? And so our young people are the consequence of not taking action and giving them an opportunity. I know we have young people in this community that we probably want to keep around because they're gems. We have gems of people in this community, you know, Colin Spite and our firefighters and whatnot. And if they don't have a place, then they won't be here. And we're all clamoring for diversity, biodiversity, and human diversity is just important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public participation?
Sage Lancaster, Eels Road. So I guess I'm one of the faces of the tiny house movement in Metchosin, and I've been kind of hiding out, not showing my face too much, but I just want to share that when the tiny houses at my place were first reported and I invited the CRD on, no problem, I was like, what can we do to make it legal? I'll pay more taxes. Everybody is open to making this legal. I have other friends in the community who, like, their tiny house is visible from the road, you know, and they're scared to come here to try and work out a solution. But in regards to the grant from the province and all of that, I really feel, and keeping the greenery, because that's one thing I love about Metchosin, and I don't want to see trees get torn down and it ruined here either. And if we came up with a plan to say, this is how we're helping with the housing crisis in Metchosin, and doing or working with people who already have these here in the community, and going to the province and showing them that, then maybe they won't be asking for however much land to develop. Yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that I'll keep coming and trying to support, and I'd be open to canvassing as well and getting more opinions for the people who are scared to actually come to the meetings, and yeah, thank you.
Excuse me, sorry, I didn't get your name and your address.
Sage Lancaster, Eels Road, 4730 Eels Road.
Okay, great, thank you. Seeing nobody else, we'll move on. Thank you for everybody who spoke up tonight. That's great. Okay, moving on to the adoption of the minutes. So we're on page 5 of the council agenda. So this is the council meeting of June 5th. I'll entertain a motion to adopt these minutes.
Move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion? Comment? No? Katie's name was spelt incorrectly. Besides that, the one comment that I had, we on page 10, we do have some direction to staff that we should follow up on, and also on, oh yeah, that's right, on 11A in terms of the flags. I think it's important that it was also discussed that I had reached out to Chief Russ Chips regarding the flags, and he had no opposition to either the pride flag or the Canadian flag, but not on vehicles, is what he said. So I'd like that reflected, not vehicle part, but just reflected that I had reached out to Chief Chips on the minutes. With that, anybody else? No? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to the receipt of the minutes. We're on page 13 of the council agenda. So this is the receipt of the minutes. Could I have a motion to receive the minutes? Councillor Donaldson.
Move to receive the minutes of the Finance Committee of June 5th.
Okay, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion. Yep.
I wonder if we could add on the final page to the reference to bike lanes in the middle of the page 16 of our agenda package, to say such as bike lanes from Colwood to CRD Whitty's Beach Park.
Sorry, where does it say there?
The point reads, support density in neighboring municipalities such as bike lanes. And the point that I made that evening was support density in neighboring municipalities such as bike lanes from Colwood to CRD Whitty's Beach Park. If we just add that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but if that's, did everybody hear that? Yeah?
It'll be on the video if you want to look there.
Okay. Okay. So anything else? No? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you. On to the Community Planning Committee meeting of June 12th. Receipt of minutes, Councillor Shukin.
Thanks, Mayor Little. I would move receipt of the minutes of the June 12th, 2023 Community Planning meeting. And just one quick comment. I just wanted to thank Council for their support of the recommendations for reopening Weir's Beach Trail and also working as such as we can to improve parking. And I thought it was very wise of the committee to put a final note about continuing to look at additional options for signage and traffic management that could be considered. And I have an idea or two that I will bring to Mr. Ranowski and even Chief Dunlop further with this. So with that, I would just move receipt. Thank you.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Anybody else? Any questions? Go ahead.
Just on that point, Councillor, through the chair, Councillor Shukin, can we hear back at Council before other considerations are implemented?
I don't see why not. Yeah.
Super, thank you.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So the Environment and Natural Areas Committee meeting of June 12th. Councillor Gray.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comments? No? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Finally, the Public Works and Protective Service Committee meeting of June 12th. Councillor Epp.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Regarding the mayor's report, this is my verbal report of the month. I just want to acknowledge that Wednesday, June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day in Canada. This is a day where all of Canada are encouraged to celebrate the cultural richness and contributions from the First Nations, Inuit and Métis people of Canada. I hope this day will resonate with all of you, with the people who have been chosen, as our community lies within the boundaries, within the traditional territory of the Suk First Nation and our near neighbors, the Shiano First Nations. Collectively, we are witnessing a really historic era. Both of these communities are working towards treaties. The process appears to be on the cusp of a new and exciting phase, and I want to extend our best wishes to both the Shiano and the Suk First Nations. This day, the National Indigenous Peoples Day, it can be one of very somber reflection given the impacts of colonialism on Indigenous communities. It should also be a day that Canadians can affirm the resilience and the resurgence of the Indigenous peoples of North America. Locally, we observe that the new opportunities of Shiano First Nations, in that they're pursuing maritime safety and their role as ocean protection advocates. We're seeing this with new graduates in all levels of schooling, new economic initiatives, and the strengthening of community connections throughout the region. I look forward to continuing to build our relationships with these Indigenous communities throughout our region, and in particular to our near neighbors. And I hope you'll find a way to mark the National Indigenous Peoples Day on June 21st. And thank you, Councillor Shukran, for prompting me for that. Okay, I also want to talk about the CRD. A lot has happened at the CRD. As indicated by Chair Colin Plant later on in the agenda in 11A, the CRD is gathering input on the regional transportation governance. The CRD board has directed staff to engage with local governments, electoral areas, the province, and relevant partner agencies, including the Island Corridor Foundation, and gather input on transportation governance. The province, the region, and local governments, including Metchosin, have set ambitious climate action and transportation targets, which to be achieved require coordinated, active efforts and collaboration from all parties. The CRD, for which I'm a director at the CRD table, has confirmed regional transportation priorities, and a collaborative approach will help identify any changes needed to optimize the governance model and enhance the overall transportation experience. And the information will help the CRD make informed decisions around future transportation governance that will best enable the region to meet its transportation needs and reduce its greenhouse gas targets. I'm also involved right now in a 2-day workshop with BC Transit, and I'll report on that. And they're certainly talking along the same lines in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and reductions. As well, at the CRD table, the 2022 annual water quality report was presented and accepted. The annual reports indicate good water quality overall, with low risks associated with the unfiltered source water, and it's being well managed by the CRD multi-approach. This is piped in water, of course, so that was the annual report, and that's available for the public if you want to look at that. As well, there has been elections on Salt Spring Island on October 15th. There was these elections. The Salt Spring Island Local Community Commission was established by a bylaw, and that was done. And congratulations for those who were elected to that commission. There were 2 bursaries given to young people, and I think this is worth mentioning that Maggie Naptali and Elvin Schoolbraid were both given bursaries for their incredible student leadership in climate action and in other endeavors. So congratulations goes to them. And then lastly, Council has put forth a motion that we will be raising the pride flag in Metchosin for the first time, and we are going to have a small ceremony on Thursday, June 29th at 10 a.m. Everybody's welcome to attend, and that will be outside the entrance to the Municipal Hall. And with that, that ends my Mayor's report. So, business arising, number 7. It's on page 31 of your council agenda. This is business arising from the minutes to be considered at the council meeting. This is from June 19th. This is the Finance Committee recommendations from June 5th. Councillor Donaldson?
Yes, I just want to reiterate that we had a presentation from a former resident and a former employee, actually, of the Agricultural Land Commission, and she gave a presentation that actually, I think, provided us with a little bit more information as to how we can apply different land use with our agricultural land reserve properties. And so this is a recommendation in accordance with that information. So I'd like to make a motion that Council directs staff to bring forward a report on a municipal regulatory approach to assist the Agricultural Land Commission and the District of Metchosin in meeting ALR mandates. and that staff include information related to home plates, residential setbacks, and the ALC size requirements.
Okay, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shuken. Discussion. Seeing none, called question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Page 33 is the business arising from the minutes to be considered. This is the Community Planning Committee recommendations of June 12th. Councillor Shuken.
Thank you, Mayor Little. I would move that council issue development permit 2202 to enable the construction of one-story, 75 square meter garage at 3667 Park Drive, including removal of 2 trees, installation of a 200 amp electrical service, realignment of the existing driveway, and including the reduction of impervious surfaces on the subject property, including the following conditions, which are noted as A, B, C, D, and E in the agenda package of June 19th. Ms. Hanson, is that okay to indicate them that way?
Okay.
Thank you very much. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shuken, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Actually, you know what? Just a moment. Sorry about that. I forgot to invite the fire chief up. We'll do that afterwards. That was my mistake. So carry on.
Great, thank you.
Did we vote?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Okay.
So Mayor Little, I would move that council requests that staff send notices, this is for the development variance permit to the DDP for 1585 Zanita Heights. And the motion is that council requests that staff send notices to landowners within 60 meters of the property, informing them of the application and the July 17th, 2023 council meeting when issuance of the permit will be considered, and also that staff schedule a council visit of the property. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shuken, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comments? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Little. We'll continue. I'd next like to discuss the Weir Beach Trail recommendations. And I would move that council approve the following next steps toward the remediation of the Weir Beach Trail. That detailed planning begins for trail remediation based on the goal of improving a natural trail design concept by adding structural elements to allow for safer footing and greater durability. In short, build back better from what it was previously. That the municipal engineer, public works, and PTASK develop a work plan that allows for the concept to be accomplished with a target budget of $15,000. Third, that the work plan consider the labor to complete the project being from contractors, public works, PTASK, and other sources. That trail improvements address encroachment issues regarding the neighbors on either side of the trail, and that remediation work begin as soon as possible. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shuken, seconded by Councillor Epp. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carry on.
Thank you very much, Mayor Little. The next is about the Weir Beach parking and traffic management. And as we talked about last week, this is an area of like a very dangerous area in terms of Mitchos. And so many of these recommendations are designed with that in mind. So I would move that council approve the following recommendations as to the Weir Beach Trail parking and traffic management. That traffic barriers be placed near the north edge of the trailhead to address haphazard parking that has occurred immediately adjacent to a private home and near the bus stop. Second, that no parking zones in this area continue to be enforced. Third, that the RCMP be notified that this is an area of concern. Fourth, that during busy weekends and based on reports from local residents, pylons may be used to emphasize the no parking sections of the road, and then additional options for signage and traffic management be considered. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shuken, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you.
Final bit of babble from me, Mayor Little. So this one addressing the off-leash issue of off-leash dogs at Weedy Beach. So that council direct Mayor Little as a CRD board director to discuss the issue around unleashed dogs at Weedy Beach, including signage, education, and enforcement with CRD staff, and that council asks staff to confirm enforcement jurisdiction on Weedy Beach, and that further, council asks the Dogs and Machosen Working Group to begin an educational campaign related to having dogs under control. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Schuken, seconded by Councillor Epp. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so we have the Environment and Natural Areas Committee recommendations from June 12th. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mayor Little. I explained at the Environment Committee during a meeting with the CRD Climate Action Program, I became aware of the Zero Carbon Step Code and that it may well improve our ability with new bills to decrease greenhouse gas emissions as compared to the BC Energy Step Code, moving forward with that. And of course, the provincial government has just brought in the ability of municipalities to move on the Zero Carbon Step Code. So I'd like to move today that Council request staff touch base with the CRD Climate Action Program and report back on the advisability of adopting the Zero Carbon Step Code in place of moving to Step 4 or 5 of the BC Energy Step Code.
Okay, moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the Public Works and Protective Service Committee recommendations of June 12th. Councillor Epp.
I'll move that council approve the placement of an emergency training tower at the Machosen School site and that council authorize the fire chief to proceed with the project.
This is moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Schuken. Discussion. Did you want us to go ahead with this or talk about the pink as well?
You might just want to bring up the pink at this time.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about the pink. So this is 7E. This is the note to council from the interim CAO, Ms. Tarnowski, dated June 12th. The this is the fire department training. This is the, I backtrack. This is to the interim CAO from our fire chief, Stephanie Dunlop. And this was regarding the training tower. The costs of moving the training tower was guesstimated originally at $12,000 to $15,000. The actual quote received was about $25,000. It's attached to your materials here. The costs are outlined in terms of engineering costs, the installation foundation, and update about the income received from our deployment to cover these costs in terms of May 14th to May 23rd deployment, expected $26,000 after the payroll, expenses, and fuel, and June 8th to June 21st deployment, expected to net about $50,000 after payroll, expenses, and fuel. And I'm wondering if we can break protocol and ask the fire chief if you'd like to speak to this, since this was not on the original agenda. That'd be fine. And then also if you could stay up at the podium and we'll discuss after. No, stay there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It was just an update to let you know that, of course, the additional costs. Substantially more than what we originally had planned. Still less than $150,000 for the value of the actual structure that we're getting. Also to update you on the where we can recoup those expenses from the deployment funds that we've already had. So we know that that funding has already been approved by the province, so we do know that has been accepted already, so it should be here before we have the tower actually. And we are working with the building inspector regarding the inspections and making sure that we're working with the structural engineer to get all that done and ensuring that it's safe. The one thing that we have not done yet is we have not gone to all the neighbors to confirm their cooperation and collaboration with that project.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody else need any more information to the fire chief? Because we've got a motion on the floor that still stands, but with the additional information that the original guesstimate of about 12 to 15 is more accurately 25,000. Ms. Tarnowski, go ahead.
Just to a note to council, would you like me to?
Yeah, please, thank you. Thanks.
I'll share the podium with you. Go ahead.
Just a note to inform council that we'll need a development permit for erection of the tower, as well as double checking with ALC that it fits with approved use.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Let's just deal with the motion on the table, and then, you have any other questions to the fire chief?
I do. We've had a conversation previously, so I do understand that this is quite a skookum, for lack of a better word, tower. You know, it's going to stand about 50 feet tall. It was
40.
When all said and done, the platform it might be a little taller, but anyways, regardless, it's very tall and it is a very well-designed structure. It was designed by engineers. I don't know if it's going to be taken apart and put back together, whatever, but there will be costs to that. And we do have some rough estimates. My concern is, will it be enough? I mean, 31,000 still seems a bit low. I know how much this actually cost originally. So it is a gift to us, but I'm wondering if up to 50,000 is more realistic. Just because we don't know. I mean, there's going to be engineers involved, there's going to be a building inspector involved. The cement pad that's going to go in is going to need to be engineered because it's going to be weight bearing for the structure. And the security fence, there's lots of different things in that regard. So I just want us to be aware that, so we're not looking, you know, a few months down the road saying, oh yeah, we need some more. I just don't know.
Yeah, that's great. So can you comment on not only on the cost, but also is it going to be taken apart, transported, and then reassembled? If you could comment to those effects.
Sure. On the back of the pink should be the quote from Harjim, who is in that, in the pink it does state that they are going to remove it, transport it, and reassemble it here. So the quote they've provided, the 25,000, includes all of that. So the piece that we're still waiting on to get the final, and that will take the engineering stamp and all that is the platform, or the footings, if you will. And we have gotten a rough, again, price of $5,000 for that, for the concrete pour. I have not taken into consideration the fencing because it's kind of a small piece until we figure out what's going on with that. To wrap around the full side. But other than that, there shouldn't be, and the engineer is one of my firefighters, and he's already given us a cost to do the footing engineering on that and do those drawings for us. We don't need a full set of drawings because they're already provided from the original set that's there. And then there's whatever the cost is for the development permits, which I think is $100 for the initial permit, and I'm not sure what the other one will be.
Okay, so about 31,000. And then it will be disassembled and assembled by a qualified engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Councillor Epp.
I was going to say that the expected funds we're getting through the deployment just for May and June are expected to be $76,000, and given the fire situation, is likely to be more. So it seems like even if the cost ends up being a bit more than this, that there is going to be plenty of funds available to pay for the structure and getting it set up and even fence, whatever is necessary for it.
Okay, so everybody remembers this is for educational purposes for the volunteer firefighters and for other communities that wish to train here. Any other questions for the fire chief? No?
Oh, sorry, through you, Mayor Little. Chief, what is the timing of delivery if everything falls into place? Within 30 days, or?
It has to be. I don't know for sure. I'm waiting. My engineer is away on holidays, so he doesn't come back till July. And I don't know about the permit, how long that will take to go through ALC and all that. Gotcha. So those are the two hiccups. It has to be removed from Sanitation 2 by August 1st.
Gotcha.
That's our timeline.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully everything falls in place before then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor Little, I just would, I'm supportive of this, continue to be. I like Councillor Donaldson's idea that maybe we provide an amount that's up to. I just had a lot of experiences with moving fire towers, and I just know there's lots of additional costs. I'm joking, of course. But thank you, folks. Given the timelines that may end up being pressing, I wonder if we can give the chief a little bit of room within some bounds to be able to execute as needs to. And so whether it's 50,000 or 30,000, but I just wonder if we should bump up that amount so we're not having to have the chief come back and if she needs to. So.
Okay, so you're thinking this is more than the 31,000, you're thinking 35 or 40?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we'd like this all to be done within budget. And it seems like there's a lot of work being done to do that. But I like the idea of getting it done expeditiously and setting maybe up to a certain amount. So, and Councillor Donaldson, I think you proposed 50, but I wonder 40 or
Well, I just think it should be more than 31. I think that's very conservative. Just knowing how much engineers, and now that we do this idea of a timeline, clearly we have some funds coming in, so I don't have a concern about that. I just think for transparency purposes, let's set, if there's money left behind, great, but it goes back into where it was supposed to go, or whatever.
Go ahead.
With that, then that would also give us the flexibility, if you will, to make sure it's secured right away. So we can then, because we do have to come up with a plan to make sure that we, have it fully secured so nobody else climbs it and do our risk management on it. So we can embed those costs and of course report back on what all those costs are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councillor Epp.
I just want to, the motion doesn't include a ceiling, or doesn't include costs at all. It just is to proceed. So
you can do an
I didn't necessarily want to. I don't think we need to add a money amount. So I don't know if how anyone else feels about it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. I think that's a great point. We could obviously pass this, but then pass a second motion giving up to $40,000 to secure and put the tower in place. I feel like that would be a good thing to do, given it is a significant amount of money, and So I'm supportive of the motion, but maybe we set a ceiling and
Okay, why don't we do the first motion? Then if there's no other questions from the fire chief, thank you. Okay, so any other comments or concerns regarding the motions? So the motions as on page 37. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Does anybody want to propose a second motion? And keep in mind that we still have to go to the ALC and ask for approval. This area is within the Agricultural Land Commission, so we'll need. And Ms. Tarnowski, what was the second thing we needed to ask?
Development permit.
A development permit. So that would need to be done expeditiously, I would think. If we have a timeline of August 1st. So, do you want to do a motion, anybody?
I can give with credit to Councillor Donaldson for the idea, but how about pending the completion of all permits and approvals, that $40,000 be allocated for the move and installation of the fire tower? It's probably a move trend for,
So up to 40?
Up to 40,000.
Okay. So that's moved by Council Shukin, seconded by Council Donaldson. Anybody else have any discussion? Go ahead.
Should we say where that money is coming from? It's not coming from our regular budget.
Sure.
Okay, so that it is funded through the deployment.
Right.
Sorry, if I can amend or modify my motion.
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. With the funds coming out of the fire deployment fees,
Okay, great. Okay, moved and seconded. Anybody else want to comment? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you. So at the beginning of the meeting, we made a motion to change the agenda to allow the fire chief to speak after Mitzi Dean. I forgot. My apologies. I was so excited about having our MLA here. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted 2 minutes to quickly notify you of an emergency program exercise that we are doing on Saturday, June 24th. And that's an exercise to trial our emergency notification program. So we have our system. So we did this before COVID and we haven't done it since then. And that's that anyone who's logged on to Machosen Emergency Program and put your name and phone number, contact information in, to be notified of a catastrophic event or some sort of emergency here within Machosen, such as a tsunami, or you probably know about an earthquake, but a wildfire or something like that. So we are going to practice that on Saturday at 11 o'clock. And so hopefully all of your phones will ring. You'll get an automated message from me that says, you know, this is an exercise and this is what the scenario is. If this were actually a true event, we would ask you to evacuate, or depending on where your location was. So that's happening on Saturday at 11 o'clock for all of the public and everybody who's registered. If you're not registered, thechosenemergencyprogram.ca is where you can register. Along with that, on Saturday then, we're also opening up our reception center. So if you would also like to practice your home evacuation plan, you can make your way to the reception center at St. Mary's, where Fire Support is going to be hosting a free barbecue for everybody. And we'll actually have our reception center all set up, so you can come in and take a look at what that looks like. We'll have some activities for the kids and lots of course, emergency preparedness information available. So we would welcome everybody down there. That goes from 11 to 2 o'clock.
Okay.
All right.
That's great.
Thank you very much. There's some little flyers for you if you'd like to post and take around wherever you like. Any questions?
Perhaps we could also put this on our website. Whoops.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Okay, one of the pinks was the new business supplement. This was the, which one was this? The training tower. Yeah, that was the training tower. Done that. Then we have the other pink, which is the report to council. This is from the interim CAO to council regarding the Machosen School washrooms kitchen renovation request for proposal, the award of the contract. Interim CAO, Ms. Tarnowski, would you like to speak to this? Thank you.
So I'm not going to go over the report in detail, just to say that this is the second round RFP for the school bathroom and kitchen renovation. We have done the scoring slightly different from the first round. In this round, all the eligibility criteria was posted on the RFP, and that included, let me just get to my list here. The criteria, so the weightings assigned were for methodology was 20 points, technical capacities and personnel qualifications another 20 points, experience and reputation 25 points, and then price was 35 points. So how the scoring was conducted in this case was the school working group as well as staff individually scored their proponents, 6 proponents, and then the whole scores were averaged to arrive at the score that you see on the table on page 4 of your pink package. So based on those scores, we are recommending that council award the RFP of the school washroom and kitchen renovation to Karcher Project and Construction. And if I may change the second part of the option slightly. And so instead of reading, direct staff to enter into contract with the successful proponent, I'm suggesting that we change the motion to direct the CEO to execute a design-build contract for the works with the successful proponent up to a maximum of $550,000.
Can you just repeat that again?
So the second part of the option, second part of option 1, so it would say to award the RFP of the Metchosin School washroom and kitchen renovation to Carter Project and Construction, and direct the CAO to execute a design-build contract for the work up to a maximum of $550,000.
Okay. Any other?
Have you taken questions? Just a note to make that, because this was an RFP, so a request for proposal, there were no details in the document itself, so things will change as the when we firm up the contract with the successful proponent. That's why I'm suggesting putting a maximum price, so we just don't. Well, first of all, there is some limited amount or grant, remaining amount in the grant.
Okay. Okay, great. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Councillor Epp, does you want to start?
I'll move that council award the RFP of the Metchosin School washrooms and kitchen renovation award to Carter Project and Construction, and direct the CAO to exercise a design-build contract. I missed the last word, but up to $550,000.
Okay, motion on the table, moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by?
I will second for discussion.
Seconded by Councillor Shukin. Councillor Epp, do you want to speak to this?
I just want to say that I think that the staff has really, and the CAO, done really due diligence to make sure that this is all done, has been all done really fairly and correctly, and I think they come up with a good choice for the project, and it will be just really good to see it getting underway.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shukin.
Through you, Mayor Little, I am wondering where the $550,000 has come from in terms of like the maximum. And I mean, I understand that, I think it referred to as contract A and contract B, and then you firm things up. But that's a fairly significant increase in what the bid was. It's not 10%, it's more like 25% or something. So I'm just curious.
So that is just amount to as a maximum. So we're not saying we will bid up to that. It's also in light of what's remaining in the grant. Mm-hmm. So there's $650,000 plus or minus remaining in the grant, and I just would recommend that we be a little more cautious than rather than just say to maximum $650,000 and putting ourselves in a very precarious situation and leaving us absolutely no room for any cost overrun. As we discuss the detail with the proponent and knowing all the supply chain challenges and delays and things like that, is really we're better to leave ourselves a little bit of a buffer in case unexpected things happen. Again, it's just my estimate at 550, given the context of what's remaining in the grant.
Mayor Little?
Yeah, go ahead.
And so this is the last major piece of the gym and the school to be done. Okay, great.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson, we finished? Yeah, Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, so I too have a question about the bump up of another $140,000. When I look at the 6 quotes, 4 of them are still much less than that. So I know that the grant has still quite a bit of money into it, and there are other things that probably could be applied for. Just because the money's there doesn't mean we need to spend it. When I saw the drawings, they're actually quite elaborate for what I've seen in other buildings. The best comparison I can say for the washrooms is Olympic View Golf Club has very similar, other than the fact there's not individual basins in each toilet room, but there are individual, and so this is something that is modern and new, of course. So again, just because the money is there, I don't know that we should just spend it. This came in at 411,000. The next one to that was 460,000. So it is a significant bump up. I think that if these contractors are proposing these numbers, they're in the trade. They know more of how much things are. So I understand there's contingency, and as I recall, in the RFP that was also requested to put into contingency.
So if I may clarify, if I use, for example, in the RFP itself, it'll say, I'm just trying to recall off the top of my head, the sink shall be a certain quality. So it doesn't specify specific model, so there's no cost attached to that, obviously. So that's where I'm coming from, saying, because we say we don't specify the products, we're saying they shall be certain standards. It's just thinking that when it comes time to specify the products, just not to cut ourselves so tight, but of course it's the council's wish if you want to lower the maximum amount to less than 550.
Any other questions? I've got a few. Sorry, continue.
Sorry, through the chair, do we have a project manager for this, or is this left to the company?
Left to the company.
So will we be having any consultation as we go along?
We can engage what's called a quality surveyor to give us a better pricing of the product and specific products. So that's an option as well.
And will you be using any of the expertise on the working group involved at all in that process, or is that a separate individual?
I don't believe the intention is to use them as project manager, but we sort of consult with them. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I got a few questions. I'm also uncomfortable with the 550, given that the bid from the company itself was 411. I just wanted to know the project evaluation team, so that composed of staff, the recommendations from the working group.
And the working group, yes.
And
so they scored as well. So they did the scoring, the staff and the working group, a member of the working group did the scoring.
Just one member?
That's correct.
Just one member, okay. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the 550 figure. I couldn't accept the motion at the bid, but it seems, since this is the community wellness grant, it is taxpayers' money. It is the Canadian grant that we are awarded. I think we should be prudent with it and look to other things within the definitions of the grant that we could spend that money on. If there are cost overruns, then the contractor would have to come back to the district and ask for that. So those are my feelings. Anybody else wish to comment? Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I'm just listening to the discussion, and it seems to, maybe I just want to clarify and understand this correctly. We've got a budget submitted by a contractor at $411,000, and now the contractor, once the design build contract is set up, then they begin work on the project, and they may find that the value that they put in their contract is lower than the value it costs, say, to buy the toilet. And so, because things are changing in the market by big swings. So, I didn't think we're drifting away from the 411, but what we're being asked to do is say, 411 is the estimate, but as things turn out, there'll be invoices attached to the material saying this thing cost more than what our estimate was. And so, my providing the room doesn't mean we're spending $550.
That's correct.
Providing the room means we're spending $411, $435.50 with any additions required to meet the description of the RFP, the quality of the
details.
The things that we purchased.
Correct. If I may, I believe Mr. Smurfett would like to add some information or have
If that's okay with council, we'll invite Mr. Smurfett to come to the mic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am a member of the working committee, and I support this firm in my evaluation. I would suggest that you think of this as building a house. You hire a contractor, but you don't have a firm price because you don't have the building plans in there. And so what we've asked is these contractors to provide what they estimate would be the cost of doing the work according to what they've submitted. And we have a suggestion of $411,000. It's a large jump to $550,000. I agree with you there. But if you think of it something like, say, a 15% contingency fund or 20% contingency fund, then if you take the number of 20%, you're looking at just under $500,000. And that still provides the opportunity for staff and the contractor to work towards providing a quality product for us. If you're trying to build a house and you've got a budget of $411,000, and when you get around to building it in 3 months, you find out that the price of the fittings for the bathroom have gone up by 20%. And you come back and say, well, we can get these things from Costco. With all just respect to Costco, buy a flat of them, you know. They might not have the same quality as what you expected in the beginning. And I think a prudent builder would, or prudent owner would provide some leeway in the design build. You know, there's a standard form design build contract, CCDC. The concept is that you work together to provide a product that everyone's happy with. You don't know exactly what it's going to be like today. You have the concept they presented, which I think is a good one, a price which they've presented, which is probably fair at the time they presented it, but Lord knows what it's going to be like when we get there. And I would suggest, with all due respect to Ms. Ternowski, that maybe $500,000 might be a better price for you to look at as a limit. And then if there's something major comes up that we haven't accounted for, then staff, the working group would come back and ask for reconsideration by council. That's my suggestions anyways.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So with a 15% contingency, it would be $473,000. With a 20% contingency fee added in, it would be $493,000, or basically $500,000, as what Mr. Smurfett recommended. So what does the council, with that, thank you for that, by the way, with that additional information, 15 or 20% contingency fee, would that be palatable? Councillor Epp.
Well, I'd be happy to change the motion to make it 500,000. I think it's Mr. Smurfett is an expert in this, and I'm certainly not. So I think it's important to kind of listen and stick with the 500,000. And maybe we won't need it all. That would be great.
Okay. So then the original motion, as you read in there, sticking with the price of the $411,435 with up to $500,000 is your motion?
Right.
Yep. And so that was moved by Councillor Epp and it was seconded by Councillor Donaldson. More discussion regarding that? Everybody comfortable with that upper ceiling of $500,000? I see Wincine. No? Okay. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for that discussion. Okay, reports for action. This is on page 39 of the agenda package. This is the District of Metchosin 2022 annual report prepared by our Deputy Corporate Officer, Ms. Tina Hansen. We've all seen the annual report before. Sulin or Ms. Hanson, did you want to speak to this before I open it up? Anybody from staff want to speak to this? Go ahead. Thank you.
I would just like to really express a sincere thank you to Ms. Hanson for doing such a fabulous job and redesigning the annual report. I know she put in a lot of effort, and I just wanted to give her a very big pat on the back for the job well done.
Thank you. Okay, thank you with that. So we are required to allow public input into the annual report. So if anybody from the community wishes to speak to this, this is your opportunity, as is indicated on the agenda package. So does anybody want to speak to the annual report at all? It's on the agenda package starting on page 43.
Tamara Ballard, the rural resident. I have a question actually for Ms. Ternowski.
Okay. Yeah, you can address it through me. Yeah, okay. That's okay.
My question is with the noise complaints, is that per complaint per residence or just per complaint?
So, any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. I'll ask Mr. Ternowski. Come to the microphone. Thank you.
It's per complainant, per incident. So if we have a complainant making 5 complaints, that's 5 reports, or 5 adds to the stats.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else from the public wished, or staff at the back, if you wish to comment on the annual report of 2022? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So I'd like to move to the, receiving a motion that council will approve the District of Metchosin 22 annual report. Who would like to move that?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. Councillor Epp, do you want to motivate?
Well, just it's a wonderful report, and so thanks very much for all the effort in doing it. It really looks terrific.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Donaldson?
I agree, and I know that Ms. Hanson contacted many people to put this together, including people who had pictures, stories. I think she's captured our community quite well with all of that, the advisory groups, all sorts of citizens, and yeah, it's definitely an annual review of our community. It looks beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. And she said that it's going to improve next year, so I can hardly wait. I particularly want to thank her for including the fire department, Chief Dunlop, accepting all of the recommendations for the report, as well as accepting the strategic plan from the council. So thank you very much. Any other? Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Little, and again, just bravo on the report to Ms. Hanson, and yeah, look forward to next year. So, thank you.
Great. Okay, so I'll take a question. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Bravo. Okay, page 127. This is the District of Metchosin Climate Action Plan. This is a report from our planner to Ms. Tarnowski regarding the Environmental and Natural Areas Committee recommendations regarding the Climate Action Plan. The draft has been presented at the Environment and Natural Areas Committee. Comments have been received. This is the final Metchosin Climate Action Plan 2023 to 2028, and we're considering it for approval by council. There's recommendations here on page 128. Councillor Gray, did you want to speak to this?
Certainly. Well, perhaps I should move adoption of the Climate Action Plan for 2023-2028 as presented.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I would just say thanks to Mayor Little, thanks to council members, thanks to the community for their participation in formulating the plan, thanks to staff, and thanks to Finnish Sustainability for the work that they've done. There were two questions asked at the Environment Committee, which I can answer this evening. One was the question of the community emission inventory for Metchosin, and that's on page 10 of the plan. It used 2022 data, or sorry, not used data from 2020. A new inventory will be available in October of this year using 2022 data. So that's coming. And then the second question that I was able to divine the response, the methodology of the greenhouse gas emission calculations can be found on the CRD website on the tab Climate Change Data and Indicators. And there's a full description of each of the sources and then how those were calculated.
Perhaps you can give those to Ms. Hanson afterwards, that exact
Climate
website.
Change Data and Indicators, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'll just otherwise comment that the next steps will be to set up an evaluation framework, the agricultural plan, which Councillor Donaldson is working on with the Agriculture Committee. The Zero Carbon Step Code, we just talked about a moment ago, bringing that forward, talking about that. I mentioned at our meeting about the EV chargers and seeing what's happening on the CRD grant. I think we might boost the Navigator program on our website again to do with the CRD work in terms of people wanting to update or improve their home energy use. And then I'm going to take a quick look at the Canadian Federation of Municipality dues, as we talked about, and just see what value there might be there. And then otherwise, I'm going to bring the report to MIASC, and we'll take a look and just see where we should start on all the different pieces to the plan and provide a bit of a plan back to council.
Okay. Anybody else? No? We've all seen this before a number of times. Any other comments or questions? No. Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of adopting the Climate Action Plan 2023-2028 as presented? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Bravo.
I'll just say thanks very much. That's a watershed moment for Metchosin.
Okay, thank you. On page 149, we have reports for action. This is the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report statistics. Yes, that's right. Everybody have a chance? Go ahead.
Move receipt.
Move receipt by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. Comments?
I just have a comment. And that just, I'm wondering, when we're now in this position, being on council as we are, and we're hearing from residents from time to time with a bylaw complaint or an issue, and it's a bit of a tricky thing because as a political person, we're not overly involved in bylaw enforcement, and so we refer people to staff. And I thought it would be helpful to put something on the website just to describe the role of council and councillor as the mayor in the question of what we do with regards to bylaws. Just seems a piece of information for public would be a good idea to help everyone understand what our role is versus the staff role and bylaw officers.
Okay. Go ahead.
That's a great point that Councillor Gray raises. And the roles should be really well defined in the bylaw policy, which isn't a difficult read. Now, I believe it's on the website. Tons of things can be on the website and you can't find them. So I'll have a look tomorrow at the bylaw tab and just see what's there and if it can be brought a little forward. But the roles are quite well defined. And a lot of time was spent on the bylaw policy. It'd be neat to have it in use and visible more, so more visible.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Anybody else? Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I'm through the chair to Councillor Shukin as the community planning and the overseer of all things bylaw. I'm just wondering, I'm just wondering if it would be valuable to have some information on the district website to help people understand or where to find information in regards to the public communication report. So people who have concerns of situations in their neighborhood, how they can actually convey that to our staff so that some positive actions can take place within our community. I think a lot of people don't know, and so it ends up being, you know, they're either afraid or they become the negative nanny of the neighborhood or whatever, but there is a process, and I think the more people understand how that process works, we can all then work together collaboratively. And there is that one report for sure that everybody has the ability to fill out.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I will have a look tomorrow and we'll connect further with staff around if we can improve or pull out information to highlight certain things, like the report. So, thank you.
Okay. It would be nice if something we can refer people to.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It would be nice if we had something we could refer people to specifically, maybe in the news report there section.
Okay. Okay. I'll call the question, receiving the minutes, moved and seconded, all in favor, opposed, carried. So we have the Metchosin Building Inspection Department report on page 151. Take a motion to receive.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any comments? Questions? No. Call the question, all in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. So we have correspondence on page 153. This is correspondence from Ms. Jen Ford. She's the president of the UBCM, the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, the Municipal Land for Housing, her correspondence. So it's a really interesting letter. So in collaboration with the province, she would like, on a voluntary basis, municipalities to offer information on available lands within the municipalities or the districts that could be used, that could potentially be used for housing. For example, it could be bare land, and they are encouraging local governments to think within the next 5 to 10 years regarding bare land, community center, library, fire hall, or other municipal structures that you plan to build, rebuild, where through partnership, housing could be in development or redevelopment. Certainly the fire hall, for instance, in terms of that could be identified as on top, there could be suites available for volunteer firefighters, which would increase housing in Metchosin and do it within our existing framework and OCP and bylaws. That's about it. So what is the will of the council? Would you like to offer this information? It's not mandatory. I think it's, as Honourable Minister Dean said, it's good to have good communication between us and the province. What do you think? Councillor Gray.
I would suggest doing nothing at the moment. We have a fair swack of municipal land. It's municipal and public land they're referring to here. And so we do have public lands, but I don't see that at the moment we reach sort of the threshold for what they're looking for. We don't have a plan, for example, to rebuild a fire hall just yet, so it's difficult to put that on the table.
Mayor Little?
Go ahead.
I would echo that as well. I don't believe we're in a position right now to identify anything that could be done one way or the other. We may get there, but not immediately. So,
Councillor F.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Okay. Councillor Donald.
Same, I do agree, and I think as Minister Dean said, that there will be further data analysis that will be reported down from the province. So perhaps it's wait and see.
Okay. And I'm fine with that. I think it's wise words of Minister Dean to keep in contact with the ministry, keep in contact with Minister Callon to start discussions on what does Metchosin want, what is our solutions to the housing crisis within the context of our official community plan, with our strategic plan, and with her guidelines there. I think we should begin those conversations, and that will show Minister Callon and the ministry that we are thinking hard about this. We're not just talking about it, we are actually doing something about it. And I think there are some easy wins without sacrificing our green spaces and our water courses and protection of our lands. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd be interested to learn about those. I wonder if before we communicate, have conversations, we should have a discussion amongst ourselves. Perhaps we could put this on a planning agenda, kind of a committee of the whole discussion, where we're not making a decision, we're just going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And because I think there's lots to talk about, and we haven't discussed it at all. So I think that would have some utility before we carry on further conversations, so we know we're representing council's views.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is for us to come up with a plan as a council, as a municipality, so we can bring that forward. So for instance, you asked what are those easy wins. We have many carriage houses that are within the municipality that do have had inspections. They've not allowed, they're not allowed up until this point to have suites above. I still, when I go back and look at it, I see why was that so. It doesn't make sense to me, but perhaps there was some reason for that. That would be an easy win. And that's something that we could talk about as a council and then put together a plan. I just think it's really important for us to be proactive rather than waiting and then having them put regulations to us. Go ahead.
So just following up on Councillor Gray's idea, I think it'd be an interesting thought to do a committee of the whole at the next planning meeting. And I mean, it might address your thoughts as well, Marie, Marilyn. So we can, I can work to have that on the agenda and connect the staff as how to do it. I don't think I've ever seen committee of the whole chosen council. So.
Committee of the whole is a different beast. I think what we'll do is have a open and frank discussion at the community planning meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
One way or the other. Sure.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor of not. So the question is we are not going to send a letter to Jen Ford at the moment. I don't even know if we had a motion, did we?
No.
No. Okay.
Move receipt of the letter from UBCM President Jen Ford.
Yep.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Super. Okay, correspondence for information. We have the CRD memo from Chair Plant on basically talking about the transportation governance that I talked about, the model that I talked about in my mayor's report. I'll take a motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Will. I just want to say that this was, we had a special presentation at the CRD Climate Group about this. I just wanted to mention the support that, or the request for support from the CRD staff was in line with the idea that as you said, if we collaborate together with the other districts in the CRD in terms of the governance of the transit system, then we have more opportunity for the rapid bus lanes to get in place, or the the density being well served by transit, very climate action items that we're interested in. So I think this provides an interesting opportunity. One of the concerns and the explanation we're given for why this is happening in this way is it was brought forward before and it stalled out, and it used up an awful lot of time, both I guess at the CRD and perhaps in councils as well. So they're trying to be a bit, I guess that's that word again, proactive, get it out to us, talk about it so they can go at it and make it a short discussion in order to get on with the actual policies. So I'm only mentioning as a kind of assurance to people saying, oh no, more talk about this kind of thing. But the idea is then we can advance quicker on the climate ideas.
So this was passed by the CRD board at the June 14th meeting. Anybody else want to speak to this? No? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for the comments. Oh, this is the correspondence from the Intermunicipal Advisory Committee on Disability Issues. This is the IACTI on page 161. So they have a number of comments and requests on this letter. Did Ms. Tarnowski, did you want to speak to this letter?
Thank you, Mayor Little. So I'm not going to speak specifically to the letter, but just to update council on what the next steps are with a couple of the other municipalities, and also what the recommendation from the group of corporate officers are. So there's Colwood and is it Royal, the other municipality? Right. So they were putting forth their suggestion to council. Is it tomorrow night?
26.
Oh, it's 26. And their recommendation is to have staff or the corporate officers continue to work with IACTI to see if the terms of reference we can come to an agreement on it's either changing terms of reference to suit the the provincial requirements. Is that, did I miss anything else?
To suit the requirements by the province.
Yeah. So that's the first step, and then we'll depending on how that conversation go, and we'll update our respective councils on what the other possible options might be at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, so I have been the municipal representative for IACTI for the last term for the four years. IACTI is a long-standing committee on the West Shore. They've spent 30 years advocating for accessibility and for rights with people with differing abilities. And I really would like to see engagement of this community and their advisory committee. They have a lot to offer. There was a suggestion at the last meeting that they could help train new people, and I don't think that's good enough. I think the saying, nothing about us without us is really relevant here. So I would strongly suggest that the IACTI be really engaged, and that their terms of reference be modified to suit the committee. Just as a reminder to council what the government of BC has recommended and has required municipalities to do. It's really three asks. So they've asked the municipalities to build a tool to provide feedback to the government, so some kind of website or emailed so that feedback can be received and responded to. They've asked the municipalities to develop a government's accessibility plan. And then thirdly, which we're discussing tonight, which is to establish the Provincial Accessibility Committee. And so I have some reservations regarding what was proposed and what we've already agreed to, but we didn't know about the IACD. We had imperfect information when we voted on that. I have some concerns regarding an accessibility plan for 7 municipalities, because View Royal is very different than Metchosin, and I suspect the accessibility challenges in Metchosin are very different than they are in View Royal or in Langford, very different. And so I don't know how that is going to play out. One plan for 7 different municipalities might be challenging. But I would recommend to the committee that we ask staff to be engaged with the IACD and to carry out with the meetings. I know there's a meeting soon. I can't remember when the date is. Councillor Donaldson, do you remember when that is?
I believe there's a meeting actually Thursday evening.
Thursday evening, okay. With IACD and the corporate officers. So I would like council to have a council direction or a resolution that we support moving forward, engaging with the IACD community and committee to in the establishment of the Provincial Accessibility Committee. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. I think what if the corporate officers of the districts are getting together to do this, I think we should let them do their work. I found the letter confusing. I was a bit astonished to receive it. The comments made about Colwood are pretty critical. I don't know, like, what does Colwood think about that? Did the committee, Councillor Donaldson, did the committee get together and approve the letter?
I have not been to a meeting to know.
Like, it's quite an amazing letter. I mean, a sense of truth all the way through it, and yet you're left wondering, what is the truth? Finances are not supported by the terms of reference. Truth. And that goes on to say things, but doesn't answer the questions. Whether the finances are supported by the terms of reference. I mean, so I'm left kind of wondering what's the situation. So I'm really happy we've got our staff digging in on this, or the staff of the different districts, to see what the committee's up to.
Okay, I think that's a little bit misleading. So
Well,
I think
my astonishment is my astonishment. So, I mean, I don't think that's misleading. I'm fairly kind of thinking, what would Colwood say if they got this, and what's their point of view of the comments in the second paragraph suggesting that Colwood is not able to do his job properly? I just don't quite understand what's all being said.
Yeah, so in fairness to the city of Colwood, they carried the brunt of the expenses regarding the IACD committee for many, many years in terms of staff resources and in helping this committee on behalf of all of us that have agreed to the IACD committee of the past. And I think what they're trying to do is say they weren't engaged as originally we were led to believe, and our corporate officer was told they were engaged, and that's the information she relayed to us. What they're saying is they weren't properly engaged. And I think what the letter shows is that they were a bit insulted that they weren't engaged, because they have 30 years of history advocating. They've advocated to the province to bring in these regulations. And then now that the province has told all the municipalities that you have to have this committee, they thought that they would be first engaged in a very fulsome way and asked, what do you think? Do you want to be a part of this? That kind of thing. And I think it shows their frustration, and that's the spirit of it. That's how I read the letter, is they're frustrated, and they just want their voices heard because they've done this for 30 years free of charge, absolutely free of charge. And then they see municipalities offering up $10,000 each to form this $70,000 unit when they've been working on a very shoestring budget based out of the city of Colwood, and the city of Colwood has been very generous on our behalf. And you see our grants and aid, the IACD asked for $250. They didn't ask for a penny more than they thought they needed from the municipality. And that's the spirit with which I read the letter. Yeah.
Thank you. Not having had the experience, I read it and just wondered what is going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But-
it's a bit,
but
I
you're not-
admit that it's a bit confusing, but I think it just shows their frustration.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for that background, Mayor Little. In speaking with my other colleagues in the community, or not the community, the region, specifically councillors who have been attending these meetings, and one of the staff member of West Shore Parks and Recreation, and the amount of consultation they've had with IACD over the years, as well as our citizen representative, which is Sandy Jenkins. This is a very powerful group. This is a group that actually lives with other abilities every single day, and they have been incredible advocates across the region, as we see in this letter, upwards of 30 years. And then to be dismissed by a new group and money being thrown into, a consultant of this sort of stuff, I can see why they're frustrated. Mm-hmm. To me, it was a very interesting letter to read. I appreciated having the truths of how they've listed things, and so I would like to see that the Capital West group be put on hold so that we can actually see this group be consulted better and for their full worth of what they're able to do, and bring the terms of reference, merge them, whatever it is that's required at the end.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Ed?
Well, it seems to me, given what Ms. Tarnowski was saying, that this consultation is what exactly is happening now, that the CEOs are going to meet with IACD to work on the terms of reference to try to work it out so that it comes into compliance with the province has requested. So it seems to me that's the next step, that we just should see what happens from the meeting, which is coming next week.
Okay. Councillor Shuker?
Mayor Little, I might just support what Councillor was saying, and maybe we commit to revisiting this letter and the issues that are here at the next council meeting. I hear what you and Councillor Donaldson are saying. And it sounds like this is a group that does need to be involved and consulted in terms of accessibility issues with the municipalities. I personally would be interested to hear what the corporate officers come away with, mm-hmm. but with an emphasis too on ensuring that IACD is at least heard and involved in the process.
Yeah, and in fairness to the corporate officers, I did attend a meeting. Councillor Donaldson had a conflict with the West Shore Person and Rec Commission that night, and so I did attend the meeting, and they did apologize. The corporate officer from View World did apologize to IACD for lack of engagement, and so it's great that I hear that this council is interested in having the corporate officers move forward with fulsome engagement with this committee. I forgot to mention that Ms. Tanel Bolt, an accessibility advocate, came to meet me for tea last week, and she showed me how she gets her wheelchair into her truck, and it's not just any old truck, it's a huge truck. And I said, how do you do that? And she said, well, just watch me. And so after we had tea and she described what her consulting company does, she's an interior designer and is familiar with plans and blueprints and incredible skill set. I did introduce her to staff as well. And then she showed me how she gets in her truck, which is really amazing. I mean, you've only got 2 arms to work with and you're paralyzed from midsection down. So that was really great. So a lot of positive things have come out of this whole issue of engaging communities and the advocates that have been working on the ground for the last 30 years. Okay, so maybe we should have a motion to that effect. Councillor Donaldson, shall we make a motion that direct staff to continue working with the IAPD committee regarding engagement in a new accessibility, provincial accessibility committee?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by... I'll second it. Seconded by Mayor Little. Anybody else want to discuss?
Thanks, Mayor Little. I'll support this. I just think we need to be clear. I believe, just for clarification, though, this doesn't discount the corporate officers also having discussions.
No, this is the corporate officers having discussions. The corporate officer group is the 7 municipalities is having discussions with the IACTI group and the the different ability group. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, I'm not unhappy leaving it with the staff who are working on it in other districts even. So people are underway meeting on Thursday night. I'm not sure what the point of the motion is.
Okay. So there's 5 municipalities that have already, prior to the new information, have already passed motions to approve it. There's 2 municipalities that are holding out. And this just gives it in the record that we're giving direction to staff to continue engagement with the IACD community.
Sorry, I missed that. Two districts have done what?
So there's this is a plan to have collaboration between 7 municipalities. The ask is that the municipalities buy into the plans that are put forward and to give $10,000 to this initiative. So 5 municipalities have, including us, bought into this and passed motions, and then subsequent to that, IACD has said, hey, you didn't engage us. And so there's 2 municipalities that are holding. And what I was looking for, Councillor Donaldson was looking for, is just to bring staff, bring instruction to the staff to directly engage with the IACD community, just to ensure that that happens. And it also shows the IACD community that we are listening to them.
Sorry, so we're telling the View Royal and the Colwood COs to engage with them?
No, we're talking about the group of corporate officers. Actually, we're directing our staff and our corporate officer to engage with the IACD community.
Not sure I'm following, but that's okay.
Does anybody else need clarification? No? No? Do you want me to clarify more?
No, I just think sometimes best to leave staff to get the job done. If they're working away on it, I'm not sure what we're intervening for in this one, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's just staff was doing the job, and and what they were doing was they were forming a provincial accessibility committee without the engagement of the IACD. So what happened was this was brought forward to Colwood, and the Colwood representative and the member of at large, Cynthia Day and Kim Jordanson, said, hey, you haven't engaged this community. And I think after 30 years of advocating to the province for these requirements of the BC government, you should engage them. And so that's what has happened. That's the essence of it.
Certainly not opposing that, but it's already underway.
It's already underway, but I think we're giving them a vote of confidence that we support engagement of the IACD community. Okay.
And I'm sort of left taking staff's lead on it from the others, so I'm good with what they're up to.
Okay, I'm glad you're. Anybody else want to comment on that? No? I'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Opposed by Councillor Gray. Okay, thank you. Okay, on page 165, we have a letter of response from Minister Adrian Dix. Honorable Dix responded to our letter of January 16 regarding contraceptive coverage from BC. This was initiated by the District of Saanich. I believe Councillor Teal Bondaroff was involved in this initiative. They're thanking us for our engagement and outlining what they've done for free contraceptives for BC residents, and then the guidelines regarding that. So it was great to see that letter. Did anybody else want to comment on the letter? Councillor Gray.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor Little, for putting it on the agenda. When we got this in our email, I was keen that we take a look at it and appreciate that you followed through and got it on our agenda. And thank you to Councillor Epp for moving forward at the council table. I think it's a good decision. And thanks to Access BC, who drove this across the province. And I think next for us in a similar vein would be looking to provide free menstrual products in all our washrooms in the District of Metchosin. And so I'd like to make a motion that we get a staff report on Metchosin participating in providing free menstrual products in all of our District of Metchosin bathroom facilities.
Okay, so we have a motion moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by second by Councillor Epp. Did you want to speak to the motion?
This is just following up on the next campaign of Access BC and others involved, including United Way, in an effort called the Period Promise, and it's just the notion of helping people out.
Okay, and Councillor Epp, did you want to did you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to to have this universal available to to everyone, and I think it's important that we did move, that we agree with that and the letter and everything. So I think we have to kind of put our money where our mouth is and do it ourselves as well.
Okay, and so Councillor Donaldson.
I agree. We're doing that with the library system, and West Shore Parks and Recreation put it all in their washrooms as well.
Okay. And so regarding the staff report, I imagine you want the financials, what the financial implications of that. We don't have that many sites. We've got a washroom here in the district, the school, fire hall, the EOC, the community house, and I can't read your lips from here. What did you say?
The public ones.
And the public ones, yes, that's right. Okay, with that, so that's for staff report on the period products for the municipality, keeping in line with other districts and municipalities. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. So I'm seeing that people are getting a little bit tight. We're going to take a 1 minute, 90-second break, and then everybody stand up and stretch, and then we will resume in 90 to 120 seconds. Okay?
Bringing the leaders and some yoga stretches.
Yes, I was, but they're going to turn the camera off first.
I should have thought, I really didn't mean to present my posterior to council. There is no meaning in the view. I presented the camera today.
Okay, we'll resume the council meeting of June 19th, and we're on 11D. So these are the addition of the pinks from Miss Whitehouse and Miss Anasty. There's the letter of correspondence from Miss Whitehouse, Miss Anasty. This is regarding the Dogs in the Chosen Working Group and specifically dogs on beaches. This is regards to comments that were made in a letter that was received at the last council meeting from Miss Summers. And there's a number of recommendations here. We are going to go through the Animal Control Amendment Bylaw, possibly giving first, second, and third reading to that, and I will speak to that, as will probably Councillor Donaldson, since you were on the Dogs in the Chosen Working Group. So regarding these letters, does anybody want to comment? Very wise words. Yeah. Specifically? No? You can talk about it when we talk about the bylaw.
Well, I just want to say, as a citizen, when I was on this group of 7 very strong, passionate women, the first example of an astute working group, we managed to get this bylaw reread, written within less than 3 months, and with a few amendments that followed. Unfortunately, it's never been fully accepted by council, so I'm hoping tonight that we will have finally done that. And certainly is timely with the actions that we are still seeing with dogs running amok in our region, and that's going to take some time to, with education and so on and so forth. But I do want to thank all those women that were on the committee, including our passing friend Lisa Vogt. There was great work that was done, and it's time for us to acknowledge this and move it on to the next step so that it will benefit the citizens that live and visit our community.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. And so the Dogs in the Chosen Working Group was a working group that was stuck under my Parks Committee last term. I think this all started in 2020 with conflicts with livestock and dogs. And then, so at that time we talked about the Dogs in the Chosen Working Group as a good example of grassroots organizations making recommendations to council. Council saying, yes, we need some input. The working group was formed. They had agendas, they had minutes. And then finally, in last spring, actually, they had recommendations to council. Council unanimously accepted all of the recommendations, including revisions to the bylaw, and most importantly, defining what under control is. And so it was a job well done. And yeah, I'd like to thank them for their work on that working group. We've also at the last meeting, and it has been ratified now, to ask the Dogs in the Chosen Working Group to continue with their educational campaign, writing letters for the Muse, the Goldstream Gazette, probably more appropriate, because people outside of Metchosin need to know what our bylaws are as well, maybe the Times Colonist. And we can get suggestions for signage. Our signage needs to be updated, and all of that was approved by last council. So anybody else want to address in either letter? No? No. Good comments? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you're ready, I'd just like to comment about what process we want to follow tonight on this one.
Yeah, so let's turn then. If we've had considerable, so I'd like a motion to receive both Patty Whitehouse and Monique Anasty's letters. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so move on to the bylaw. So the recommendations is that we consider moving the first, second, third reading of the bylaw 676. So the past council has looked through this entirely. I think a couple of times they've made comments back to staff. Staff has now come back. They had made comments late in August, I believe, maybe July. And then I was hoping to reconvene, but the council at the time said it doesn't matter if it's punted to the next council, they can deal with it. And that leaves us dealing with it here. But the recommendations from past council was to, with the questions that they asked, with sufficient answers to that, this bylaw should be passed. And actually I agree. I think we should accept the bylaw. We've got probably some questions asked here for clarifications, and this is a good starting point. And then we can see how it goes, and honor the work of the Dogs and Machosen Working Group, and then we can make amendments. And so, go ahead.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 676, a bylaw to amend the animal control bylaw 2023.
Okay.
Second.
So this is moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shuken, to give first reading. Just a moment. Go ahead. Councillor Shuken, then Councillor Gray.
I defer to Councillor Epp if she had. I do have a comment or two on the bylaw.
Yeah, go ahead. So Councillor Epp, you did the motion, so do you want to comment on it?
Not right now. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Shuken.
Okay, sorry. Thanks. I had one or two suggested amendments to the bylaw, and I make those with a bit of apology because I know there's been a ton of work put in here. I'll just start with what I think should be top line considerations. So under the definitions, vicious dog, there's this definition B. A vicious dog means a dog that has in a menacing or terrorizing way approached any person in an apparent attitude of attack upon a highway, park, or other public space. And the amendment I'd like to propose is for private space other than the dog owner's property. Now,
can you tell us what page you're on, please?
Sorry, this is page 181, and I've lost track of what section it is, but it's the definition of vicious dog. So just below the definition of under control. Now, the reason I'm suggesting this is it goes to a situation which council was made aware of a few weeks ago, where it was a dog that had all the telltale signs of a vicious dog. It was approaching aggressively, snarling, baring its teeth, but it was on the person's property, not the dog owner's property, not a highway, not a park. It was on that person's property. And as I understand the exchange between the bylaw officer and the resident, the bylaw officer felt they could not do anything with that incident because it happened on private property, believe it or not. And again, but it's very clear that highway, park, or other public place seems to not cover a private residence. So again, the amendment I might suggest would be, or private space other than the dog owner's property. Okay, so that's one amendment I might suggest here. But, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just wondered, like, does it have to say where it is? Like, can it not just end with attack? Approach any person in an apparent attitude of attack?
Well,
period.
Well, here's what I'm wondering about is that this does not cover the dog owner's property.
I know, but if it doesn't say where, just
yeah,
I don't know. That was just a thought.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the Dogs and Machosen Working Group did follow and did have the CRD bylaw with them. Mm-hmm. And so I suspect there is a reason that you cannot prosecute unless there is an attack on a private property, snarling and that kind of thing. I can't remember, but I suspect that is the case, that on a private property you can have a snarling dog. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Gray.
Councillor Gray. Mm-hmm.
It seems to me we're jumping into amendments before we've completed first reading, and amendments usually happen after second reading. But, so I'm really interested in what Councillor Shukin's putting forward, but it demonstrates an overarching issue here. So I took a look at this, as others will have done, and I don't want to sound terrible, but it's obvious it has not had a legal review. If you look at the language in the amendments and things like that, this is a regulatory bylaw, so we're intending to fine people, potentially be opposed, potentially go to court. It's the sort of thing where you want to have a lawyer take a look at it. I can provide a number of examples in here where it's clear we've not had a legal review to straighten things out, but that discussion there just demonstrated it. How do we deal with this question? So I would prefer tonight, rather than doing first, second, and third reading, so I'm going to vote against first reading, that we go through this and see that, check our intent in the various places, just as Councillor Shukin has just done. Maybe our light amendment, like what we'd like to see, or like to have a legal view of, like, how do we fix that problem? And then just do that instead of going and sort of making amendments and formalities and not passing amendments. Because when you get down to it, I look on any page, I've got legal on those two pages. Legal, but all through the document. Changes have been made which I don't think have been seen by somebody. So, for example, changing the word humane destruction to euthanasia. There perhaps is a legal reason why it said the previous words is euthanasia defined for animals. I don't know. I'm just saying, anyway, enough said. Perhaps this, see, we're looking at a 2002 document. It's 21 years later. It's possible a lawyer might say, actually, give us a new document entirely. So I'm not opposed to the points of view and stuff, but I think our process might shift a little bit depending on what others think of that idea.
Yeah, okay, so just to outline what the process was intended to be, and you're right, we usually do make amendments after the second reading. I forgot that, that's my mistake. But the intent was that this would be first, second, third reading, or first and second at least, and then it would be reviewed by the lawyer. That was the intent. And perhaps Ms. Ternosky, did you want to speak to that overall intent?
So Mayor Little, you're correct on the intent. Just wanted to bring to Council's awareness that vicious dog cases are very, very difficult to prosecute in court. So it definitely needs a legal review for sure. Because I've heard stories that it's so difficult to prosecute in court. So we want to be absolutely sure that whatever is in the bylaw will stand up.
So like our other bylaws that we are bringing forward for amendments, that this will be involved in the same process, which should to have a legal review. I did also hear from the CRD legal department that the original bylaw that we had was terrible, and they were glad to see that this was going to be amended and then looked at by a lawyer. So, yeah. Okay.
So perhaps we could do sort of draft amendments, and they're easy to do, but then leave everything in place so the lawyers can see the comments, can see the red, see where the changes are, and let's give them our intention. So the intention, what Councillor Shukin was offering was really clear, but then your point was quite accurate. Wait a minute, that, how does that work? So let's leave, maybe that will make it easy for us to go through and just find all the, oh yeah, that's a good one, this one maybe you should check. But I'd like to leave in the track changes so they can see where we're at.
Yeah, okay, so we have a motion still on the table from Councillor Epp and Councillor Shukin. We could go through, and let's, if I may, suggest we go through the first reading, vote on that, move to the second, then have a discussion, and we could leave it tonight at the second or move to third. Let's see where we get to. So let's call a vote on the first reading. Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Opposed by Councillor Gray, and accepted by the others. Okay. Did you want to move on to the second reading, Councillor F?
Okay, I move that Council give second reading to bylaw number 676, a bylaw to amend the Animal Control Bylaw 2023.
Okay. Moved by Councillor F, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. This would be the point where we talk about.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll run one day. I do take to heart though, Councillor.
Point of order. I think we complete the second reading, then we make two amendments after the second reading's been completed.
Okay, so,
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
thank you. Ms. Hanson, so we're gonna complete the second, yeah, okay. So, we can still discuss it. Does anybody want to discuss the actual motion? No? And we can make amendments after the second reading?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I do take to heart Councillor Gray's point. So I have a few edits or amendments, but I think it would be good to build those in, but also keep the comments here and put this to review. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll call the question on the second reading. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed by Councillor Gray. Okay, so move on to the third. Or actually, let's take some comments regarding the potential amendments, what you liked. I've seen this document so many times, and we've gone through it so many times. I really didn't have anything else addition to say. Go ahead, Councillor Shukin.
Thanks. I have a few, and maybe I'll just throw out two.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the concept of a dog of concern was considered. And there's a definition, and I think it comes from either View Royal or Colwood's dog or animal control bylaw. And again, it's fairly simple. It's a dog that has aggressively pursued or harassed a person without provocation. So, and what is possibly interesting with this one is you could add an amendment if you go down to the powers of an animal control officer, which is on page 186 of the package, and it's section 6. And they talk about an animal control officer may, and then it gives all the powers here. And again, this came as an idea, I'm not sure whether it can stick or not, but an animal control officer may designate a dog as a dangerous dog or a dog of concern. And what I feel is going to happen, or with this bylaw, is that it does need to be armed. So if we have a situation with a dangerous dog, we have the tools to act. And again, I go back to that case that we ran into, we didn't, the individual ran into a number of weeks ago, but apparently the rumor is that this dog is known in the neighborhood and has harassed or been threatening to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be good to have the tools to address that.
Mm-hmm.
So I throw that out again. I wonder about the definition of, I'm just repeating this for Ms. Hanson's sake, a dog of concern, with the definition, a dog which has aggressively pursued or harassed a person without provocation, and then taking it back to the enforcement section and giving the ability of an animal control officer to designate a dangerous dog or a dog of concern. So,
okay. Yeah. And those could be inserted with track changes from council here so that it was all documented.
And I'll leave it at that for now. I thought I had one more, but I can't find it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
May I just ask Councillor Shukin, so does that come back in somewhere else? Like they designate it and then what happens? The dog is fine, or does it get impounded, or what happens?
Again, that's, yeah.
I'm not pressuring, I'm just...
Well, a dog, like a dangerous dog does have to be muzzled. A dog of concern can be identified, like the property owner can be identified. If there's a return visit, there's a sense of that you're going back for a dog that essentially has a record. So, but it's a good point. Like I don't know exactly what you do with it, but right now I don't think there's any mechanism to say, that this dog has been, I don't know, trouble in the past. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives it a higher level of
awareness.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Did you find the other edit?
I didn't. No, that may be it. So.
Councillor Donaldson, did you have any suggestions?
No, I don't have any suggestions at the moment, but I do know a dangerous dog and a concerned dog are two different things. I know a dangerous dog has a declaration as a danger dog.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. And there are some pretty serious restrictions on how that dog would exist. Muzzle would be one of them, but pretty much they are jailed. But it is a declaration, and it is something that is actually posted on the property as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll reserve comment on the other at the moment.
Okay.
So Mayor Little, sorry, just to that point, I'm wondering if we need to specify in the bylaw, and maybe I've missed it somewhere, who can designate somebody as a dangerous, some creature as a dangerous dog.
That would be the animal control officer.
Yeah, and I don't believe it's specific in the set of actions the officer can take. So that is the amendment. And again, maybe the dog of concern is not valid or worth doing, but I wonder if just for clarification, it might be added there.
In terms of the declaration of the dangerous
Yeah.
or a dog of concern.
Yeah,
Okay.
I throw that
So we
out
can
as
add that
consideration.
in to those comments. Councillor Peck. I'm just not sure about the procedure now. Is this a point where we can send it to get a legal opinion on this and then do third reading? Is that how it works?
So if you don't want to do third reading, we'll send it off we'll make the proposed amendments, send it off for legal review, and then bring it back to council, and they would give third reading as amended.
Okay. Okay, so for those who didn't hear that, so what we'll do is make comments now with us having just read the second reading. We'll send it off for legal review, bring it back, and then for potential third reading of the bylaw. Okay. Any other comments? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Gray.
Perhaps this would be dealt with by a lawyer, but I'm concerned about the addition of the words resulting in medical distress. And this is about a car being, no person, it's under Part 5, or owner's responsibilities, Part 5A4.
What page?
I'm looking at page 175, but I'll find it in the document itself. 5A4. So it's on page 185 of the agenda package. And the section is called Owner's Responsibilities, and the section is 5. No person shall cause an animal to be confined in an enclosed space, including an automobile, without adequate ventilation, resulting in medical distress. So I'm not sure, I don't know where this would stand on animal cruelty and that sort of thing, but I don't think we need to modify without adequate ventilation with the words resulting in medical distress. I think it's the working group comments, not entirely adequate. Exactly. Let's sort that out. I would prefer that we say it simply ends with without adequate ventilation. That's enough. I don't want the dog to be in trouble, demonstrating, exhibiting that we've put it in a situation of medical distress before we're prepared to intervene. So maybe just want to underline and say I don't really like that very much, and maybe a lawyer can help us. The SPCA may have rules about that sort of thing.
Okay.
My other comment, so by the way, I really appreciate the work of the working group on this, the entire piece. It's terrific. I'm concerned with the legal language that we've got here. That was just my one worry. I don't think it does the job that we're looking for. And then my other point would be really, I'm not totally sure I get the very first one or the second one you got here about you can have 4 dogs under control but not on leashes. I'm not sure I buy that, so I guess we'll just hear more about that as it goes along the process. Somebody help me understand it better.
Okay.
It seems to me if you've got more than 4 dogs, maybe don't go in the park if you can't control them on a leash. like having 5 or 6 dogs, it seems like, okay, you're getting beyond the ability to call each one of them back. I haven't never had the experience, but I start to wonder about it at that point.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I have had a bit of experience with this because we regularly have commercial dog walkers that visit our neighborhood. There is one that is fantastic, and he has his dogs on a leash, they're under control. And then there was another one that appeared and opened his van door, and no fewer than 5 dogs ran out all over the place. He no longer comes to our area, but he's somewhere else. And clearly those dogs are not under control. So that's a tricky one in terms of the amount of dogs you can have, what you can do to control them, and then also the aspect of commercial dog walkers as well. So I'm not quite sure on how to address that one here.
So, at the risk of opening this up to community members, we don't usually do this. However, this has been long in waiting, and I would like the committee to agree that we could ask a member of the audience, the chair of the committee, to come to the mic to address some of these questions. Is that okay with Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Gray?
Yeah, this particular question, I'd be most interested to understand a little bit better.
Yeah,
Other
okay.
things I don't
Patty
think
Whitehouse, could you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for asking me. I could make right at the beginning comments on the last 2 questions. With respect to the adequate ventilation, there is no definition of adequate ventilation because it depends so much on the circumstances of the time, the dog, the make and design of the vehicle, and so on. That's why we added the more objective qualification, causing medical distress. If that is not adequate, there still needs to be some objective indication that ventilation is not adequate. And one of the reasons for that is because you've probably heard about circumstances where a member of the public becomes concerned about a dog, and then rather than doing the appropriate thing, which is to call the police, breaks in or otherwise causes mayhem. So to have it as unclear as adequate ventilation sidelines there, or is not consistent with the great efforts that the committee made, or the group made, to keep the guidelines objective and actionable.
And the second one regarding the
number of dogs.
Number of dogs, the dog handlers.
Yes, it depends on the handler and the dogs. I can absolutely believe that 4 and more dogs can all be under control at the same time, because I know Monique Canistee. And I know the kind of training that her dogs have.
Sorry, but I just didn't catch that because of what?
I can certainly believe that 4 or more dogs can be all off leash and under control at the same time, because I know Monique Canistee.
But does that mean that that's the only person who can do it?
Oh, no. But she is an example of the person who can do it. The thing is, though, that it doesn't, the number of dogs is arbitrary, or is sort of irrelevant. The question is, are they under control? You can have a person with 1 dog who is not under control, and if they're on leash, Councillor Gray, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are under control. And you can have a larger number of dogs that are under control because they are trained, because the handler knows how to handle them. So I really would not advise worrying about the number with respect to being under control.
Okay. And maybe could you just stay there at the mic?
Happily.
Additional questions?
Yeah, I'd be really cautious about throwing out one person as an example of you know, whether a dog or a pack of dogs, a group of dogs can be under control
I
or
can
not.
find more. I can find more people.
Sure. I guess we can point to responsible dog owners, and they're wonderful. The reality is that we have irresponsible dog owners, and the unfortunate thing is you have limited means of enforcing a bylaw when you run into these people either on your property or out in the wild. And again, just because we have a great definition, and it is, the under control definition that the dogs group came up with is very apt, I think. But dogs don't read, dog owners aren't aware of the bylaw, so there's inherent challenges with that. And again, a dog can be out of control on a leash, sure, but unless that dog escapes the leash, it is still restrained to some level. So,
well, it can be dragging its handler towards the object of its hire too,
sure
which
could.
makes it on leash and not under control.
Absolutely, yeah. But again, it's you still have that extra. And again, I'm not advocating for dogs on leash at all times, but I'm pointing to some of the difficulties. And again, you see them. And Patty, Ms. Whitehouse, I did read your letter, and thank you very much for sending it. Again, and I just go to the second paragraph. The horrific incident where the dog attacked a girl with witty speech would not have happened if the dog had returned to the handler when called for safe place. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it did happen. And again, dogs' behavior is not. Where is the dog's behavior going to be changed because we have a definition of under control?
Oh, it's not.
So,
it's not. But handler's behavior may be changed. That is the goal.
Yeah.
To have handlers be educated as to what is expected of them and what the consequences are if they don't take the measures to keep their dogs under control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there, of course, there are options. They can get training so that they can keep their dogs under control.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a great point. And I remember when this came up in January, or when it came up the first time, the final report, the question I asked everyone is, what are the circumstances where you can enforce the under control thing? And again, it was a sincere question, which I still have. I'm certainly not ready to abandon it, but I think it's complicated. And again, under extreme situations where the owner doesn't give a darn, the dogs are playing with the gray area of under control. Or again, you have commercial dog walkers who just need to do what they need to do.
They need to have the dogs under control too. I agree with you, sometimes they do not. I've encountered them.
Yeah.
But let me finish. The thing about the definition of under control is that as far as is possible, there is no gray area there. People are supposed to have their dogs under control, but if the dog doesn't meet those, something happens and the dog doesn't meet the requirements, then that dog is not under control.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether it's one dog or 8 dogs. Doesn't matter whether it's a private person or a commercial dog walker.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of using an objective definition and making clear what the circumstances are, or what the consequences can be if the dog is not under control.
Okay. And sorry, I don't mean to belabor this. I guess my point though is, I agree with Ms. Whitehouse. They need to be under control. There's a definition for it, but the question is what happens when they're not, and what happens when there's not a CRD or a chosen bylaw person there. And again, there are times when you walk through a park. I walked to the edge of the cricket pitch today, followed by and nibbled on my legs by 2 cute little dogs who are not under control. And am I again policing?
Well, you could make a complaint as is typical under bylaw enforcement. And actually, typically things won't happen unless you make a complaint. complaint. That's how bylaw enforcement works.
Yeah. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. And any other comments, questions for Patty? Go
Well,
ahead.
we have Patty here. Patty, if you could, for my colleagues, explain the difference of vicious and dangerous. I think that was the very first.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'd have to look at the bylaw and tell you there is the difference is in there. It's not of our origin that it was the original in the original bylaw. I believe it's a CRD distinction, and with that in particular, Councillor Gray, I agree with you about getting clarification on it and having the lawyer look at it. There are differences. It's a designation that's given by the CRD, and there are differences in what the handler must do with respect to the dog. In one case, the dog is not allowed off the property without a muzzle on, for example. And it is in the bylaw, but it doesn't jump immediately to my mind. It could quite likely be improved.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
One question. Go ahead.
Sorry. When I look at a dangerous dog versus a vicious dog, there's a big difference because a dangerous dog has killed or seriously injured a person, like the harm has been done. Did the working group give any concern to dog of concern?
No, that didn't occur to us. I think that's a good thing to consider and to consider adding it and to get more feedback on. I don't have any issue with that. Changing the wording and making sure that the requirements are clear, the distinctions are clear, I think is good.
Okay.
Step.
Yeah, I think it was in the either the Royal or the Colwood.
Yeah, we looked at some other municipalities, but we didn't look at all 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Patty. That was helpful.
Thank you for allowing me to come up and speak. I know that this stuff is, it's not Dick and Jane. I know that sometimes it helps to understand what our reasoning was behind making a particular recommendation. So thank you.
Thank you. Also, this is 2 years in the making, so we want to move this along to get it going soon. I just want to make a point about the public education. So when this all started, we did have a public education campaign. I wrote an article for the Muse. I can't remember which month it is. It's in 2020, but on the front page is talking about dogs and human conflict or something. It was a big picture of the sign that actually was never put up, but it was proposed and accepted at council. It was designed by Bonnie Ferris, our previous Parks and Trails coordinator, who had designed the sign for the Sea Bluff Trail. So that should go up at some point. Along with that was the signage, the education campaign, and then we had CRD bylaw out there. I think it was for 2 weeks, and he was out there continuously, and the conflicts with the dogs and the livestock ceased. And there were some residents that weren't all that happy about it, and the CRD bylaw just said, well, that's just the bylaw. So that was good to see. So education does help, and it is very effective, but we have to empower the Dogs in Metchosin Working Group to help us with that.
May I make one more?
Okay, one more, and then we've got to move on.
Yes, just the signage is equally important, and I hope that the council will, coinciding with all these other things, make a plan to get the signs up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I don't think we need to do anything more. We've passed the first and the second reading with the recommendation that council give first, second reading to bylaw 676 and to amend the animal control bylaw 2022. I guess, would that be 2023? I'm not sure now. I don't think we need to do anything else. Does anybody want to speak to that before we move on?
Should I make a motion to send it to legal counsel?
We could do. We were planning on doing that anyways. That was the recommendation, but go ahead. Sure.
Okay, I move that we send the documents, including all the background documents we have tonight, to legal counsel for review.
Moved by
and advice.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson.
And then I just want to be open. They may respond and say, actually, we need to rewrite the darn thing. It's so old. But so we'll see what they have to say. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Nobody opposed. I just want to thank again the Dogs in Metchosin Working Group for their enormous effort on this project. They're all volunteers and they really took it seriously, and we can go back in their minutes and see exactly what they've done. It was exhausting, believe me. I was at the table, so thank you. Okay. This next report is a ticket information authorized amendment bylaw. It's on page 199 of the council agenda. So with that, if we could ask Ms. Tarnowski, would you like to speak to this?
Mayor Lou, before that, I would make a motion that council be able to continue past 10.
Yep, moved by Councillor Shukin to move past 10 p.m., seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried reluctantly. I see that, but that's okay. We'll carry on.
I'm opposed.
Oh, and you opposed to going past 10 p.m.?
Yeah. I mean, this item here is not material, seeing as we didn't pass the other ones.
Sorry?
This item depends on the work of the lawyers on the previous item.
Okay. Ms. Tarnowski.
So just want to comment that this is really a housekeeping bylaw update because to be in line with the changes that's being proposed for the animal control bylaw.
Okay. And so this also will go with the package to legal counsel?
I'm not sure that it does because it's just really to keep in line with the animal control, but I'll make sure that if it needs to go to legal counsel, it will. If not, then we would send it.
Okay. Okay, great.
Mayor Little, sorry, Ms. Tarnowski. I feel like it could be me, but I'm sort of I found this section of the report confusing. Maybe it's because it's page 200 and we've sifted through a whole bunch of other things, but even if it goes to the lawyers, it might just go down in a condensed version or clarity on what's being changed.
Yeah, it's just the fee structure.
Yeah, because I think it's actually in.
If you look on page 202 is the fee structure.
Okay, yeah.
For the ticketing.
And are the changes though to the fees, are they in Schedule B and Schedule A? It looks to me like they are, so maybe that part doesn't even need to go to the lawyer.
That's correct. Yeah.
I guess my point was simply that the numbers might change, the definition of dangerous might change. We just don't know until we get the other one back, and that's why I didn't think going past 10 was needed necessarily.
And that's why you're requesting that?
That's why that going past 10 may not be necessary. I think this needs to await what we hear from the lawyer in terms of getting the numbering correct and the dollar values, etc.
Okay. Well, so what would you recommend?
I would recommend that we send the animal control to the lawyer first, and then just to keep an eye on in terms of fee structure needs to be changed. I don't believe that will require legal review. Okay. It's just changing the fees.
Okay. And so what you'd recommend is we leave this for now, or do you want us to go ahead and pass first and second and third? Maybe we should wait. So go ahead.
I think we can pass first and second until my recommendation. Because then when it comes to third, if there's any amendments, then we can change it at that time before we do third reading.
Okay. Okay, I get a nod also from Ms. Sternovsky as well. So with that, if I could have a motion for first and second, or first reading of bylaw 679, a bylaw to amend the municipal ticket information amendment bylaw 2023, with the understanding that we'll go to, just a moment, Councillor Donaldson, that will go to second reading, or just past second reading. So, sorry, Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. Discussion on first reading. Not, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Regarding the second reading.
Second reading?
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Okay, and so we'll leave the third reading of bylaw 679 for the ticket information for a later date. Okay, and then let's see. We've got other business, the award of, we've done that, the award of the contract. Oh yes, and the last item is an update on the Ford and Friends event that is happening in Metchosin. Ms. Sternovsky.
It's too bad Mr. Summers just left.
Yeah, sorry.
So a really quick update, I met with Mrs. Thomas a couple of weeks ago just to discuss the staging for the vehicles and the parking. So the plan is that he will stage the show cars in our parking lot starting at 7 a.m. on show day. They'll get them organized and then have them cross into the field at the school field. They'll park there, and then this parking will be available for general parking or the show attendees. What else? So there'll be a couple of vendors set up within or inside the tennis courts. And then all the bathroom arrangements has all been arranged to use the school facilities washrooms. Mr. Summers will also have, I'm not sure if they're volunteers, but people that are directing traffic in terms of parking, where to park within our lots. I think that's about it. And when we met, he had indicated that they did not receive as many registrations as they had hoped. It's probably about 2/3 of what they had hoped. So,
which was?
Around 120, 110, 120. They were anticipating, hoping for 180. So quite a bit few less, but he did indicate that there were always last minute attendees that show up without pre-registration. So that's one of the logistics they'll have to manage.
Okay. Council have questions for Councillor Donaldson?
Yes, did we ever determine a fee for renting the school field, the washrooms, and is there, so you answer those first two, I got a couple more. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, the fee was, they paid the district $500, which is in line with what they paid West Shore Parks and Rec. But they did not pay us for the bathroom. They made that payment to MACA.
And which washrooms will they be using?
So those fees were paid for use of the MACA washrooms, but they are welcome to use our bathroom as well, the ones that are in school.
Okay. So they'll be using the district chosen washrooms
That's
at
correct.
the school site, all of them. And so the fee went from, how much did they pay?
$500.
So they paid $500 to MACA?
No, they paid $500 to us.
They paid $500 to the district, then they paid MACA
$300.
$300 for the use of the washrooms at the school.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madeline, through you. Ms. Tarnowski, is there any type of, cleaning fee, or do we know who's responsible for the cleanup post-event, whether it's the field or the bathrooms or parking here?
So Mr. Summers says that he will be as responsible as he can for the fields, but the bathroom will be, again, keeping it as tight as possible, but obviously they're not going to be the ones doing the cleaning.
Yeah.
So that will fall on our janitor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Donaldson?
Okay, so 2 more questions. Regarding the fee for the bathrooms in the school, the 2 sets of bathrooms are the same system, so I'm not sure why there's a fee for one and not for the other, and why the fee actually isn't coming to the district, being that's a district building.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same opinion. I think that the fee for the washrooms would come to the district, not to MACA, and because the district janitor would also be cleaning as well. Any other comments?
And the other one with the, we had brought this up a number of times, I think, in the past, at least twice, about crossing the road and having flaggers and having them insured. It's going to be busy. I know that when we have the garage sale, which was probably a less busy day than what this is going to be. Even though they may only have 120 people coming to this, it will be a large following. It's also the same day as the market, and I was here the day that, the Sunday of the market, which was a less busy day. And the parking out front here, there were 3 rows, and that was people just on this side of the street. So I hope there's a really good plan for parking in this small area out here for that. And I would suggest that because you're trying to encourage walkability and the whole climate change, that at least the one side of the street where the roadside trail is be all cordoned off from Rocky Point to the Mitchell's Central parking lot, just so that people have a safe passage, because when we had the garage sale, people still parked on the roadside trail and could not traverse on foot. So that is a concern, to not have parking on both sides.
So that parking on both sides, excuse me, is a concern for the fire chief for the ability or non-ability to have the fire trucks pass. So we will have to coordinate something to make sure that the fire vehicle is able to travel through.
I would even donate some pylons to them. I've got 20.
Okay,
They
great.
work.
Any other comments?
The insurance for, well, they didn't get flaggers, obviously, so have we got any idea of if somebody gets run over, what's going to happen? Other than we know the fire chief's going to have her people well trained for administering assistance.
We will have a copy of the insurance, yeah, because that's a requirement. Yeah. So we will not be liable. That's under the insurance. That's one of the requirements.
And so they're going to be able to manage the traffic coming up this driveway and outside for whatever placement of vehicles from the market and their event.
Mr. Summers is pretty confident in how can I say this? I think the attendees will also manage themselves in the sense that they can see it's busy, that they will, I hope, that practice caution, that they see there's lots of vehicles and lots of people, lots of attendees, that they will take extra caution when they're crossing the streets. I can see that maybe you don't agree with me.
Well, I know what happened the day I was here and couldn't get in and out. So I'm just saying, I hope there isn't an accident with anybody, no matter their age or ability. I really truly am worried about it. And I've expressed it more than once, actually more than twice. I know how passionate and popular an event like this is. It's very, very popular, these car events. I participate in, so I do understand those. And just don't want to interfere with neighbors, and yeah, want this to be a success, obviously.
Okay. I have a couple, oh, go ahead, Councillor.
Just one, I mean, it won't work for this event, but I had suggested, road improvements in the Growing Communities Fund. And one of them would be to have a crosswalk. The fire chief and I have looked at that in the past of where a best place would be to have it, but so that people going from the parking lot on this side would be able to cross safely to the other side. And that really is something that we should look at there. It really needs to be a crosswalk there now that there are having to be more events where with more people and traffic and so on. And maybe we could, I'm not sure exactly how much it would cost if it worked in, but maybe we could figure to have that done sooner rather than later.
Okay, and I have a couple of comments. I thought that at a community planning meeting we had already discussed asking the Fords and Friends group to provide outdoor potties because of the extent of the use of the septic field. And since then we've had an event where it would overflowed. We had to get it emergency repairs and whatever you call it, removal of the waste from the septic system. I still think that's a good idea to have outdoor potties because you've got vendors there. People will be drinking liquids anyways, and they will need to use the facilities. I think it's easier to use a porta potty for all these chaps that are looking at these cars. And I thought that's what we had recommended.
No, I have the council resolution from March 6th, and the motion was to approve the Ford and Friends car show and shine and chosen in principle, subject to addressing the issue raised around parking, traffic control, washrooms, and cleanup. So that's the resolution from the March 6th council meeting.
And the concerns around the washrooms was that it was going to overload the system, right? And the septic system regarding the school being on a septic system that is fragile at best.
So as you said, that's correct. So the system was pumped out just very recently, less than a month ago. So that wouldn't be a concern at this point. And going forward, it will be regularly pumped out as well. And not only that, it will be assessed as suggested by Mr. Smurfett for the load on the septic field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I do think that the fee should come to the district rather than it going to MACA. So the $300 should go to the district. It is a district building. Yeah. The $300 plus the $500 fee. Yeah. Go ahead. You have a question?
I suppose that depends on a lease with MACA. If they lease the washrooms, they decided to sublet them. I'm not sure whether or not that will work, but you could certainly look into it.
I don't think that they're allowed to sublet, are they?
I believe they are.
Yeah, but that's to artists. Yeah,
I'd have to take a look at the lease again. I'm just pointing out that you may wish something, but you may have an agreement that puts you in a different direction. I don't have the documents here tonight, but just offering that comment.
Councillor Donaldson.
This was one of the reasons when the booking form had come to us, which hasn't returned to us, to have this hopefully in time for this event, but also for the interim booking agent that we have for the next 5 months. So that everything would be in place, not a month before, which is where we're at now, but to be in place so that we have all the fee structure there and so that we're not chasing this. This isn't a MAC event, so I believe that our system needs to be paid for, and that's where I would support that. And in the future, I think that if we're going to have any money left over from the Community Wellness Fund, that we actually have a proper analysis done of our septic system, so we know what we're doing with what capacity, what lines we've got in there, so that, again, we're not just forking out $2,000 to keep pumping it out or whatever that is. That's not a responsible way of managing the system if we're going to book anything on that property, including big events at the gymnasium and such. So yeah, we need to cross our T's and dot our I's. There's a lot of undone business still.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's a really good point. If you fill that, if the gym capacity is quite substantial, and if we're concerned that the septic system can't handle it, then we wouldn't necessarily want to rent it out to large numbers of people.
Well, and that's exactly my point with the car show. It's going to be a large capacity of people. They're certainly not going to, they're going to go into a public facility to do their business.
Yeah, so we're circling back to concerns that we raised when this was brought up, and I guess it's caution to council for approving something in principle without having all of the information before us, without approving it in full. So I think we've had enough discussion regarding this. Everybody looks tired. Any other? Did you want to make a motion to that effect? Of what you proposed?
Which part?
The latter part regarding the analysis of the septic system.
Is this the place?
It's underway.
Yeah,
We are getting that done.
Great.
Yeah.
That's
been under, arrangements been made. It's underway.
For the analysis of that.
For
That's
the,
great.
for the load.
Yeah.
Whatever the proper term is, but yeah, just to find out what the load is.
Okay, because that will get very expensive very quick to continually pumping that out on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. Okay. Okay, with that, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, I don't see anything else on the agenda, thankfully. Go ahead.
Move to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
See what happens.